Entirely.
I still don't know if he's trying to play or not, honestly. I've heard virtually nothing on the Larry Fitzgerald front.
More tackles and catches. Or drop catches. Drop balls. You can't drop a catch.
This is Entirely Sports with Not That Rudy.
Nothing really does anything for me. Neither does a lot for me.
Nothing in this world does anything for me anymore.
Yeah, I was never really...
Rudy Salazar staring into the void.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Name me a more giftable quarterback than Kyle Orton.
I don't know that I can.
I'm not going to pull up my phone.
This is Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
There's no
Matt.
Kyle Orton gift.
That was disorienting. Don't listen too close to the intro. It's not Entirely Sports, and it's not entirely with Rudy Salazar. It's still almost. In fact, tonight might get really almost later on. I am Joshua Brisco. I am still here, despite what the intro may have said. You know what?
Announcement time.
That might have been a called shot. Maybe Rudy was saying, hey, Josh, just so you know, we didn't talk about this before the show or anything, but you're going to be here for maybe the first segment. Yeah, and then it's the Rudy Salazar, I am the captain now hour.
Josh, I have some news.
Sure. Find any Kyle Orton gifts yet?
No. I haven't looked in a while. I honestly, the whole Kyle Orton bit, don't remember it at all, and it's great. I had forgotten completely about the Larry Fitzgerald. Like, he has more catches, than tackles. And then I was like, nope, more drops. Like, nope, you can't drop a catch.
Yep.
Whatever that whole statement was. I forgot I did that. I'm also super impressed by my ability to just roll through it because there was no hesitation. It was just boom, boom, boom. We got there.
I was impressed by your ability to bleep up a stat that toddlers who have watched football know.
Yeah.
So some kind of funny little moving parts tonight. The fact that the intro is wrong is funny. The fact
wrong is a strong word.
So tomorrow night, we're doing AES from 7 to 9, and then at 9 o'clock, we got an NBA game on here. Which, honestly, I was like, it's fine with me, I talk plenty, and I'm like glad that there's NBA basketball kind of making its way into our hemisphere because it means there are still sports happening, which is a nice reminder to keep in mind while, football season comes crashing to a halt and everything. Not a problem, something to look forward to even tomorrow night at 9. The problem is that until literally 6:58, I thought that was tonight. I thought the game was on tonight and that we had our 3 hours tomorrow. We have 3 hours tonight and 2 hours tomorrow. That's not a problem unless I don't get those days right. And then it might be. You know, we'll find out. We will have
I mean, I didn't
plenty
know.
to talk about. You forgot it was happening at all.
I literally typed up the schedule, and when you said it, I was like, wait, what?
And look, and Po Buddy's nerfed, as we've often said here. And we've got a slightly, false advertised intro. I put 2 hours of fuel in the tank, for myself. And I need to get a third hour. I might have to, get a little fill up partway through.
I have another G Fuel.
I actually have a big thing of iced coffee, which should come through pretty clutch. Also, Matt Verderame at 8 o'clock is sort of like another shot of an energy drink of some sort.
I've been stopping the energy drink drinking, and then I've learned that when I get really stressed, even if I'm not tired, I go buy energy drinks.
You just a little
I
coping
don't know
mechanism.
if that's health. I mean, I know it's not healthy.
No, it's not.
But I don't know if it's like necessarily, I guess, deadly. I don't know how bad it is. I don't think drinking G Fuel is gonna kill me. But for whatever reason, that's become an energy drink has become my my coping mechanisms.
I think that is not the best habit, and it's definitely not the worst. And that's about all I can say super confidently.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
No school again for Olathe tomorrow.
I wasn't going to go anyway.
I had plans, but now I'm free.
So
That's a bad joke to make on the radio, probably. I had no plans. I wasn't going near school, people.
It's fun. It's okay. It's fine. It was a ha-ha. It was a goofy ha-ha.
Also, this might be actual breaking news, but also you may have seen it because looks like Vikings have their head coach, Kevin O'Connell.
Yes, I did see that.
Cool.
Jim Harbaugh's apparently staying at Michigan.
Yeah, I saw
whatever.
I think it was Rappaport and Schefter tweeted that out earlier today, but then just recently I think it was Pelissero.
I think Tom Pelissero might have.
Yeah, literally just tweeted they are now basically calling the candidates saying, hey, like we've got our guy.
Right. They can't officially sign him until after the Super Bowl. But there you go. You've got your future in Minnesota, which actually could be kind of interesting because of their GM. Anyway, that's a whole other side of a conversation. We might actually get to at some point because I think some of that's kind of interesting. But here is
one more thing.
Sure.
Sorry,
No, that's okay. I can see that. In fact, I think you should. Once I hit a certain button, you ought to just chomp away at some salad for 6 minutes and just see if I get myself in trouble.
This one's not as crispy because obviously they must have been out of like the big lettuce pieces because it's clearly the chopped up little small lettuce pieces, lettuce strips. I'm not a big fan of that.
Like shredded lettuce in a salad?
Shredded lettuce. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of shredded lettuce.
I've been in that place where I have to use the shredded lettuce, but you definitely rather have
I don't like
a spring mix.
I'm not a big shredded lettuce. But point being, because this is not a topic we're talking about, but it just should be mentioned. The U.S. men's national team has decided to play a soccer game in a place where they're saying, hey, if you're not bundled up enough, you might get frostbite.
Good.
They're in Minnesota playing right now outside. Because somebody decided, now, hey, did they know a massive storm was coming months ago? Of course not. But somebody decided that on February 2nd, we're going to play a qualifying game in Minnesota. Because what could go wrong?
Just ask Seth. By the way, happy Groundhog Day to all those who celebrate.
Shouts.
Congratulations to all of those. I actually don't know. Did the groundhog, in fact, see its shadow today? Did they do it today?
I saw a TikTok about a pug wearing a groundhog costume saying, hey, I've seen my shadow. Now give me 6 more weeks of snacks. But that's all the information I have.
Thank you for that, Rudy. I appreciate that exclusive report. I also did get tagged from our beloved Jordan Foote. He did tag me in a tweet that the Flavortown Twitter account tweeted out, and it was Puxatawny Phil with some big Oakley sunglasses, some photoshopped earrings, and a photoshopped goatee to look like Guy Fieri, hair as well, I believe. And they said we're in for 6 more weeks of flavor. That made me very happy. I am currently trying to get past a pop-up on usatoday.com. Here's the journalism. Groundhog Day 2022, Puxatawny Phil sees his shadow, meaning we're in for 6 more weeks of winter. Haven't seen this.
Doesn't seem like it outside.
No, it seems springy. Haven't seen this groundhog in our backyard recently, but for a while, we had a regular, occasional groundhog visit in our backyard at the house. Fills me with great joy. Groundhogs are very strange little animals. I love them. So I'm just very excited that we were all here to be able to celebrate a Groundhog Day together. And I've got a bunch of audio from Brett Veach's press conference yesterday. You know this show gets to all the audio it promises, so I'm just going to tell you we're going to get every single second of that presser. Nope. Hold on. We won't. But I do have several clips that'll be interesting. We have an extra hour that I thought we were going to have when I was planning on the show today.
So we might actually get to more audio.
We will actually get to more audio than usual, yes. My physical copy of Pokemon Legends Arceus has still not arrived, but I bought it digitally yesterday because I was tired of waiting, and I will resell the physical copy on eBay or something. Or
$15.
If anybody wants a copy of Pokemon Legends Arceus for $60 retail price, I'll pay for shipping and handling, and I'll get that to you. In maybe a month. I haven't even gotten the status update on that thing, by the way.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You don't even know when you're going to get it.
That bleep might never be coming.
You might have been out. I mean,
I got it on sale,
yeah,
$45.
It's not the biggest deal in the world.
I'd like to have that money back, but yeah, you know what? If you want to give me, I think it was $45 free shipping, maybe 46 total. I'm basically giving this thing away. I don't currently have it, but I did play a few hours of Pokemon Legends yesterday, and that was very exciting. Rudy's been playing it gotten a little farther into it than I have. We will talk about that at some point, I'm sure.
It'll be interesting to see because I decided to restart very early in for a very dumb reason. I don't need to explain it all.
It's shiny hunting basically. If you know what that is, and then you know. And if
but
you don't,
I think I'm like maybe 30 minutes away from being where I was initially, so I'm basically where I was. So I don't know where you're at. We might actually be. You might be a little ahead of me, but I imagine we're pretty close.
You've told me some things that I have not seen for myself yet, but I've also spent some time doing some very dumb things, like changing my outfit every time I'm back in the village, and then going and doing an entire photo shoot with the Pokemon of choice. I forgot to tweet out some of those screenshots. I'll do that today too.
I need to get into my fancy Rowlet kimono, and then just me and my Rowlet go take some pictures.
You really should.
I really need to.
It's a great.
I have taken some pictures. I just didn't have my fancy Rowlet kimono on.
That's important.
It's very important.
We will probably do either today or tomorrow, or maybe Friday, at some point this week. Well, I would say or early next week, but next week we got Radio Row. I think we're flying Tuesday. I think.
I forgot about that.
I know. Well, so it's kind of funny that the Super Bowl can sneak up on you whenever your team's not playing in it, which is a weird thing that we haven't had to deal with around here very often.
Aren't they playing the Bengals this weekend?
You would have thought. Maybe get a little rematch, something. No.
I'm pretty sure I saw that Patrick Mahomes playing a football game.
You would, yeah. I think maybe he'll go to Vegas, which is not where the Super Bowl is. It's where the Pro Bowl is. I don't know.
Mahomes has never played in a Pro Bowl.
He hasn't, I guess, right? I guess he might have.
I don't know.
He would. He probably would have. The Patriots. Stop eating salad on the radio, Rudy. You really reminded me of somebody that you used to do a lot of radio with. Just eating food right into the microphone. We're really channeling a. We're really channeling a former era of our lives. Whenever you're eating food directly into a microphone. I forgot how many hours the show was tonight.
Sometimes you have to go back to go forward.
Is that a segue?
I don't know.
Can that be the segue to the Brian Flores thing?
It can.
I'm not sure.
You know what? I think it is. Because you know what I would say is taking a step back if you're the NFL?
Yeah.
Is being sued.
Yeah.
So you know what could happen because of it? Could make actual progress. Maybe move forward a little bit.
I wouldn't advise that you bet on it, but it's at least a pretty good segue to get to this.
But if you want to believe, if you're an optimist.
We got Verderame at 8.
naive.
We'll do a ton of Veach audio at some point. Probably at 9 we'll do either Veach or Pokemon, which is perfect. That's a perfect sentence. Coming up at the 9 o'clock hour tonight, we'll either hear from Chiefs General Manager Brett Veach, or we'll talk about the new Pokemon game. Almost entirely sports Radio 810 WHP. There you go, Rudy. That's a Kansas City. There you go. Now it's a legal ID for you, for the liner of the future.
I'm going to put that in the system.
You should. Yeah, just as a rotation that no one else knows about.
That's the new liner for
really
for 810. I can make this happen. I could absolutely put them in the rotation of the actual liner. It'd be funny. 'Cause, I mean, only like 3 people would like really know what's happening.
Yeah.
It'd be the people who pretty much run the board. Everybody else like zones out, I feel like, when the liner's playing. But those 3 people get a kick out of it.
I remember the liners, man. I remember, I think I've said this before, but like my dad would yell the liner of, or the legal ID whenever it would go.
That's fair.
The power of sports. He said it very ferociously.
If I hear it, I can't not say the power of sports.
Yeah. Yeah. No offense to any of the liners that have been produced since then, but that one right there, special place.
It just
Special place right in here.
It just kicks.
So, I think we might have. I think maybe what we do, Rudy. I thought we were gonna go very serious out of the gate, come back and do a little reset, and then get to the funny things. But we've just had. You're eating a salad. I thought there was a basketball game at 9 tonight.
I mean, there probably is. Just
I thought we
not
were
on our
playing one at 9.
station.
I got yet today and tomorrow mixed up. We've got all of that. We
What day
almost. What day is it? What time is it? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Happy Groundhog Day. He saw his shadow. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. We've got plenty to talk about. We got plenty to sift through, and I want to take like a tight 12 minutes. That's an estimate, but it feels about right. I want to take a tight 12 serious minutes to talk about this Brian Flores lawsuit and the allegations within and what it might mean for the NFL and why I specifically think that it's interesting and also something that you should take some amount of interest in. Maybe you've already gotten tired of the last 24 hours about it, depending on how much you have heard. Maybe you haven't gotten much of it at all. I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about that, and then we can chase that with a good 8 minutes of Pokemon talk, if that's the shot and chaser that some of you might need to be sold on that as a conversational topic. So I think what we're gonna do. We've laid out the show plan. We've explained how we got here. Rudy's eating a salad with shredded lettuce.
Makes me a little sad.
I don't even know what day it is.
I missed the crunch.
And the show is rolling. We've got, maybe not fast, but the momentum is there. We've started our move. I've just been thinking about Pokemon since I stopped playing it last night.
Understandable.
It's very fun.
I played it a lot this morning. I said I normally have a routine in the morning. I said, bleep my routine. I'm going to lay in bed for like 4 hours and play this game.
My new routine is playing that game. It's not perfect. And I want to talk about it, and I can't. No, we're not going to right now. We're going to save our time.
Like the NFL, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. But we like it. We like the content. It's bad, but we like the content.
I don't want to say that the new Pokemon game is bad in any way.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not in any way. It's very good. It's just not perfect. The NFL situation is pretty bad and not perfect, and also pretty bad. This is not a burden I want to put on my little Oshawott named Joshua Watt.
But is everybody gonna? It's so good.
What were you gonna say, Rudy?
I said, but we'll all obviously watch it come the fall. I mean, next 2 weeks from now.
Let me pitch you on this also, because there was a bit that I thought about stealing that I was reminded of as I was driving in tonight. I was listening to the last couple episodes of The Right Time with Bomani Jones today, and I just think Bomani does an unbelievable job at doing what he does in that format. He's great in everything, but like that show, I just think
It's where he shines.
is unique, and he is just about perfect.
It's where he's allowed to really be him and do his thing.
And so I really admire that show, but there's also a bit where Bomani will say, "Hey, play the music." And then they will play like a 30-second bed of elevator music, and the producer will say something along the lines of, it's we'll be right back here in just a moment on The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I don't think they say this, but it's like currently experiencing some technical difficulties. And the whole bit of it is just they are using it as an edit point because Bomani said something to somebody else about something that was not supposed to make the podcast. This most recent one, Antonio Brown's name comes up, and Bomani goes, "Hey, play the music real quick." And then so there was clearly some conversation about Antonio Brown that was not meant for air. I would like to steal that bit, and I don't know if we can steal that bit respectfully, acknowledging that it's theft. But I like the idea specifically in a live radio format where there is just a 20-second little, we'll be right back after this quick break here. Maybe it's just the cover of a legal ID in there as well with some fun elevator music. I don't know what it is. But where I can just make a joke to Rudy and then Rudy has a chance to make a joke back to me, or we can talk about something that isn't for air for whatever reason and then come back and continue doing the show within that segment. I don't even remember what you said that made me think about that again. But there was something I wanted to say to you that would not have been... What were we just talking about? What did you say that made me say
essentially comparing
that?
Pokemon to the NFL.
And that we're always going to go back and watch it. I was going to make a joke about the extent to which the NFL's diversity problem would have to go before anyone would make a legitimate stand on that. But also, it would have been very funny, and the joke wasn't fully fleshed out either.
My pitch for the elevator music thing essentially is this.
Hey, what's up? This is Vanilla Ice, and you're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Feels right. It's just an early pitch.
God, I love that's in the system.
I can do some work with it, but it's just an early pitch.
We got to get somebody to
You're going
voice
to be
that.
out there next week. You got to find somebody good.
Yeah.
I want somebody obscure, good. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
This feels better than going serious right out of the gate. I think this is going to be easier for everybody. So I think we're doing a reasonable thing. Let me look here. There's a couple. I got a list.
Do you have a list of who's there?
I got a list of a few people that are gonna.
I'm gonna play. I assume this is safe.
Hey, I just had an interesting thought. Actually, fuck this.
Yeah, we could also probably do that.
Can we get somebody to do that for us?
That must have been a beard censoring. That's a real light bleep.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports. Actually, bleep this on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey, I'm Cooper Rush, and you're listening to Almost.
Yes! That would be so good. Because people would initially think, oh my God, it's Cooper Kupp. No. It's Cooper Rush.
What's up? I'm Jake Plummer, and you're listening to Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810. Jake Plummer doesn't do it for you?
Cooper Rush, Central Michigan. He's a Mac boy.
Hey, I'm LeGarrette Blunt, and you're listening to Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810. Oh, man. Oh, Rudy,
Nailed it. Central Michigan, baby.
There's a name on this list that I'm afraid to even...
Say it.
Do you think that we could get a little bit of voice work from Jeff Fisher?
Please, God, please. If you get to talk to him, I understand there are important things in there are serious things in there. Man almost won a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Everyone wants to talk about that. But at some point, you basically got to be like, okay, I'm a Tampa Bay Bandits guy.
Yeah.
Rudy has pledged his allegiances with the team, who I've already forgotten.
Yep.
But he hasn't signed.
Yeah, when it's
he's
over.
a hard
when
commit,
Rudy over.
but he's not signed.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to get him on board?
Yeah, no, that is exactly what I would ask.
That just needs to be like, maybe it's the last question. I don't know. But that just needs to be a question.
My last question would be, can you read this where you say, hi, I'm Jeff Fisher, and at the 90-minute mark of this episode of Almost Entirely Sports, that means that you are batting 500 in terms of getting through this show. Wait a second. Is that a joke about me being 500? Bleep you guys. I'm out. I'm Jeff Fisher.
God, that'd be so perfect. Him giving us a halfway through the show liner would be so perfect. At 8:30, it just plays. Like we have to break at 8:30 every given every
It just
moment.
plays. It's not even that it breaks sometimes. I could be, all right, Matt Verderame from FanSided with us here on Almost Entirely. Hi, I'm Jeff Fisher, and you're halfway through this show.
I think he would do that. We just could not tell him the actual reasoning behind the halfway through the show thing.
He seems like he's got a pretty good sense of humor. I don't know.
I've heard him do interviews before. He does actually seem like he gives off the kind of right. Like I think some of this is like he has a mustache and stuff, right? And he's older. I think he definitely gives off some of the old man grouchy vibes. I've heard him do some interviews, and again, there are some things that I've heard his stance on, right? Where it's like Jeff Fisher just seems like a pretty cool dude. He wants to run the football a lot more than I like, obviously. But as far as like an actual person goes, he seems very laid back, pretty chill, and just kind of like along for the ride of life.
Taylor Heineke's on the list here, man.
That's pretty good too.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Oh man! All right, I'm glad that we've had this conversation also, because it's got the gears moving before we get to LA, as we'll head out to Radio Row next week and
enjoy
have some fun out there.
the pork rinds. I don't know who's gonna give you pork
Someone's
rinds.
gonna give me pork
Somebody's
rinds.
gonna give you pork rinds.
Whenever we were in Atlanta, we got some pork rinds that were being promoted at the time, and I was like, "Oh, those are fun." Now I eat pork rinds 6 days a week.
But I also remember like since then I've helped out oh yeah, like I'll call this person right around, I'll answer the phone, I'll put them on hold, and I've heard some some interviews with people last year I was running the Border Patrol during Super Bowl week, and we had somebody selling pork rinds on.
So now I'm thinking about it.
It's a common, I think somebody's selling pork rinds at every Super Bowl. It's probably the same company. I just don't remember, but somebody's selling pork rinds.
Aspen on Twitch just said, now that we've laid out the show plan, it's time to take it completely off the rails.
We're going to take an early break. 7:26.
Damn it. I've got serious social commentary coming on the other side of this pork rind talk. It's going to blow your bleeping mind, man. My plan actually for Radio Row this year, Rudy, is not going to be to get free pork rinds. It's going to see if I can become myself an endorser for a pork rinds company.
That's pretty good.
And I'll do it just for free pork rinds because I do eat a significant amount of them now. They're carbless, which is,
important.
Big dub for me.
Should talk to him. He'd be like, hey, I'm sure it's not your biggest market, but I just switched the camera.
Yeah,
that's on
you
me.
really want us to go to a break?
Yeah, no. I switched it because I thought of me. I know that's probably not your biggest market. Obviously athletes, but hey, I am on the radio. I am diabetic, and your product is great for people who have diabetes, and I can promote that side of it, right? Like you use your athletes to promote that. Hey, if you want to be a manly man, you eat pork rinds, right?
Exactly.
I'm hey, you're diabetic. You're looking for a nice snack, and there's more of us than you realize out there. Boom.
Keto friendly, low carb, all of those things.
I'm off on the cameras.
Rudy's really gotten the cameras bad this segment. He opened the show with a liner that was really celebrating him in a way that I didn't appreciate. This show, I thought that my plan was going to be that I was going to come out and just dribble the ball, just drill a hole in the hardwood, just getting my shots off, dribbling a bunch, taking my fadeaways. None of that happened, obviously. We'll take a break here, and then we'll come back with what I'm loosely calling Josh's 10 minutes of serious commentary. Just give it. This is also the title. Josh's 10 minutes of social commentary. Give it a try and just see if you like it or not. That's the name of the segment that we'll do whenever we come back.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Joe's Kansas City Barbecue has made their new...
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
In the first 26 minutes of this show, everything went wrong on the production side. Not Beards' fault. All the equipment around him. He was captaining a ship with just like beach ball size holes in the hull.
The ship was A, on fire, B, getting invaded by pirates, C, had the Kraken trying to bring it down around it, and D, it also just got hit by lightning. E, it was also on a mountain.
With Joshua Brisco.
F, it was running Windows XP.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. There are F reasons that the first 26 minutes of this show is a hellscape.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right. Rudy, eat your salad.
I'm gonna.
Everybody out here needs to eat their vegetables today.
And when I do talk, it'll be constructive and add to it and not distracting.
And filled with crunching iceberg.
Because I do have some, like, sad opinions.
Speaking of icebergs, this might just be the tip of this one. Dumb. While Rudy eats his vegetables, I'm gonna feed everybody their vegetables here for a second.
He needs to be excited to eat the salad, but I just don't like shredded lettuce.
So, there are a lot of elements to this, right? I'm not going to go through the trouble of trying to get you every detail of the actual news story, because here's how it basically works. Brian Flores got some texts from Bill Belichick that were meant to go to Brian Daboll. There are currently as many Brian head coaches in football as there are black ones. That just hit me. There's not a second Brian head coach, is there?
Not that I can think of. Also, sorry.
His mouth is full of lettuce and he's distracting me. It's unbelievable.
It is not distracting. Do we think? I think this is part of the conversation. I mean, in a way. Do we think Belichick did this on purpose or on accident?
I think he's an old man.
I think that's fair.
And that's my answer.
I think that's probably the right.
My assumption is that he had two iPhone contacts, both named Brian Coach.
Yeah.
Or Coach Brian.
Coach Brian.
And he got his Brians mixed up.
I think that's fair. My favorite conspiracy theory is obviously this was Belichick's retirement present to Brady. The only team, the team that beat him twice in the Super Bowl, he's taking them down.
Wow, that is great.
I don't think it's true because he hates Tom Brady, but it was my favorite conspiracy theory of the bunch.
You're right, Rudy. That was constructive. Promises made, promises kept, man.
You're welcome.
But so those texts come through. Belichick is congratulating who he thinks is Brian Daboll on landing the Giants job. Brian Flores is getting these texts, and he is still to interview for the Giants job. And obviously, if Brian Daboll already has it, Brian Flores going in for an interview, presumably to fulfill the Rooney Rule, is obviously pretty terrible. There are several other elements of this, including Dolphins owner Stephen Ross allegedly offering Brian Flores $100,000 for each loss while the Dolphins were in tank mode, and trying to set up a boat meeting with maybe quote unquote Tom Brady. By the way, $100,000 for Stephen Ross to pay per loss. That's like, that's just a wild way to go about forcing your team to tank.
In my head, the first time I heard it, I thought he said $100. And I was like, one, why would a coach doesn't need an extra $100? But just the fact that for Stephen Ross, like $100,000 is
basically $100
would basically be me giving you $100 to do something.
I bet that is not even enough on that ratio. I bet that would be.
You're right. Actually,
if you went through and cashed those numbers, I bet it'd be even more depressing. But yeah, I'd be like, hey, Josh, here's $10 if you do a bad radio show on purpose. Now, look, the Dolphins lost some football games. We do plenty of bad radio shows, but we come by that honestly. It's like an insulting wild bribe. That's a part of it that also in the age of like gambling, where the NFL is like, hey, we'll take your gambling money. This is also kind of depressing, and I didn't even mean to start this direction, but like that might be the thing that ends up getting Stephen Ross in the most trouble. That might have the biggest consequences of any of this.
Especially now that like just the NFL partnering up with gambling, services, right?
Yes.
It's a massive deal.
Massive. That might get treated as the more massive thing here, which is again kind of disappointing. But the allegations from Brian Flores are, hey, these texts from Bill Belichick, which it doesn't appear that Belichick did anything wrong, just to be clear, just texted the wrong guy and ended up blowing this thing open. You get the sham token interview from a team that's already basically picked their head coach. You get allegations that whenever he interviewed with the Broncos that it started late and everybody was mad hungover, and that John Elway was daydreaming while hungover that day. Apparently, the Broncos have already refuted this. That is a selection of the allegations here, but then the rest of the suit goes through and it even mentions guys like Eric Bieniemy. They have a whole page of Eric Bieniemy's qualifications and credentials, and still note that he has not been given a head coaching job yet, and that black head coaches in the NFL, where there is currently one, being Mike Tomlin, but that they are not given these jobs even whenever they are qualified for them, that they are on shorter leashes whenever they do get the jobs, that they do not get second chances even after their rehabilitation process, if you will. Bill O'Brien is in Alabama, and he's going to end up getting another head coaching job in the blink of an eye. Jim Caldwell took the Lions to the playoffs and got fired, and has not had a head coaching job since, just as an example.
And you can make the argument, like, obviously just getting a job is insanely hard, but, like, I think you even see this, like, essentially at the quarterback position, right? Like, how often do we see the Blaine Gabberts of the world, right? Like, just live and not that Blaine Gabbert doesn't deserve his job. He was really bad as a starter. I'm sure he's fine as a backup, right? Like, I'm sure he's one of the 96 best quarterbacks in the NFL. But so many black quarterbacks don't get that opportunity, right? Just to, like, stick around.
And even the terminology of some of that, and then the paths of a former quarterback to quarterback's coach to an offensive coordinator to a head coach, that's a pretty white pipeline there, generally speaking. And again,
it's also the pipeline that generally that is the most common pipeline to NFL head coach.
So I will say I don't. This is the beginning from the legal side of things. I do not think that this suit is has the NFL shaking in its boots right now. It is a start of it is making a snowball and trying to push it down the hill and seeing what else will come up with it. We might be able to talk a little more about the legal side later this week. I want to try to get in touch with some of our sports law friends in the world and get some of that explained a little bit more. But in the macro here, it is the most concrete, substantial step that anyone in the NFL world has taken anytime recently, certainly since the start of the Rooney Rule, to say, hey, we have a world right now where there is one black head coach, something like 70% of players are black, and you think that is something that is sustainable or okay or there for good reasons. And Flores, I think, has probably ended his head coaching career by taking these steps. I think that out of the gate, you've got to have some respect for the conviction and the cause right out of the gate.
Yeah, he is almost absolutely ending his NFL. Like, if he's got a chance at college, right? Because there are a ton of college jobs, which also, and this doesn't get talked about a lot. In a way, college football has a worse problem with this because there are so many more jobs, and the percentage is lower usually than it is in the NFL. Now, right now, the NFL is 1 out of 32. Yeah. But generally, the NFL is 4 out of 32, and college football is 7 out of 200, right? Like, it's just so, like, there's also a problem there. But he is throwing. I mean, he is almost likely, and not just head coaching job, just like any coaching position in the NFL. Maybe somebody's willing to, but I mean, you're taking a huge risk there just on your livelihood.
And he knows that. He's talked about that as he's gone public today and yesterday. That's not a question to Brian Flores. And the answer for him is that this was worth doing, even understanding that risk.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, just real quick, just think if you're anybody out there, would you be willing to throw away, like, you have your dream job, right? The thing that you've always wanted to do. Would you be willing to throw it away? The thing that is paying you good money to take care of your family. Would you be willing to throw it away? Even if you knew, like, hey, or thought that, hey, this could better other people, but it's not going to better me, but it'll better others down the line. Like, that is an insanely courageous thing to do.
So some of the specifics and the legalities of all of this, I don't think we have enough information on just yet. I want to take some of the big picture things here, though, because there's some stuff, and this is where my offering of vegetables for everyone to eat for 10 minutes can come. Just hang with me here. If you hang with this show for any of the stupid reasons that you may enjoy this show, give me a couple of minutes and if you think I'm off base by the end of it, you can tell me so. But the accusation, which I don't know that there's a legal step for it yet. I don't know what the action step to fix this is going to be. But the accusation is that the NFL as a power structure is systemically racist. That doesn't mean that every person within that structure is racist. It doesn't mean that every choice made ever has been with the sole, intention in mind of furthering racist tendencies. But that the system as a whole functions in a way that is fundamentally more difficult for people of color. If that isn't obviously true to you, I would like to know what else it would look like. Because if you would make the argument of, it's not, it's just right now it's a, bunch of coaches got fired, it's tough, but, you got Mike Tomlin out there, it can't be systemically racist. If that were true, you would have to be able to make a legitimate argument to me that 31 of the most qualified and deserving head coaches of professional football teams in the world just happen to not be black. That's insane. No one would reasonably attempt to even make that argument. Now you could say, okay, but whose fault is that? Well, it can start with ownership, but it's also, this is where systemic comes from, it is the system that can be totally incredibly harmful, ridiculous stereotypes that plagued black quarterbacks 50 years ago, changing the path that you reasonably could take with stereotypes that were around when Jackie Robinson was finally, we all agree that there was systemic racism there, right? Because it was in print, disallowed. Jackie Robinson breaks through. I think it was the GM at the time that got to the point of saying, we can have black bodies playing this game, but we're going to have white minds in charge of it. That is an obviously racist trope from long enough ago that you can say that was a long time ago. Well, there are effects and ripples from that I think, for me, it's very easy to see those ripples continuing now. But if you don't see them, I would love for you to tell me when they stopped. And I think this is probably going to be the question that I have to ask around these conversations that we have in sports and in life forever now, at least for a while. If you say America is systemically racist as a country, there are plenty of people in their cars right now that just went, whoa! You didn't even say it. You just said someone could say it, and I object to that. If you would object to that, tell me when it stopped. Definitely systemically racist, and several steps beyond that for a country built atop slavery. Definitely still racist through segregation. Definitely still racist through when. Tell me when it stopped. First black president? Are you sure? That was really recent. It definitely wasn't abolishing slavery or beginning to unsegregate schools. It definitely wasn't with Martin Luther King Jr. They killed him. Abe Lincoln didn't end racism. We know that. But so when would that have stopped for you? If I would ask you the same question about the NFL right now, that's a question that the NFL should have to answer for. The Rooney Rule is in place because the NFL looked in a mirror at one point and went, wow, there's not a lot of pigmentation in this mirror. What can we do to try to diversify our leadership? We'll put in the Rooney Rule. Now you can get compensatory draft picks. The Chiefs are going to get 2 third-round compensatory draft picks, one of each of the next 2 years, because Ryan Poles went to go be the GM of the Chicago Bears, and he was a minority candidate, putting that in air quotes. It is embarrassing that rule exists. Also, you have not seen it do much of anything in terms of creating the systemic change that I think the NFL genuinely wishes would have happened by now. Eric Bieniemy would also give the Chiefs a couple of third-round picks if he went and took a head coaching job somewhere else. This is not spurred on an incredible run of teams, aggressively trying to develop minority candidates for various positions to then send them off to be head coaches elsewhere. Now, in fairness, that rule is new, but the Rooney Rule did not solve racism in the NFL. Even if you can't point to specific people and say, this person's racist, this person isn't, this person is, this person isn't. That's a horribly difficult game to play. But you can say, well, the results are pretty one-sided here, so maybe there's something in that process that is tainted and would need to be resolved. But maybe you would continue to push back on that. I don't know if Brian Flores and the lawsuit and everything can prove that the NFL has never stopped being systemically racist. We all agree it started that way. And I don't think most people would have the guts to disagree with any of that, because all you need is a brief look over your shoulder. American history at every step is tainted by racism. Clearly, obviously, everyone can see that from a starting point. So I won't ask you if America currently is, or if the NFL currently is systemically racist. I would ask you, if it's not, when did it stop? And you can find that time for me. Maybe some of you will be able to present an idea, present an answer to that question. The other thing that you don't have to do is leap to the defense of the white dude on this one. Brian Daboll might be a great head coach. Maybe he won't be. Brian Flores is not suing Brian Daboll here. Brian Flores isn't saying that any particular owner would not hire him because of the color of his skin. People hear that all the time whenever racism comes up. You say, well, it's got to be this like forceful, specific thing that has been stewed upon and decided. And that's not always the case. It certainly can be, but that's the obvious, easy racism that pops up in, the most obvious and unimpeachable contexts. And this is different. So it can be more nuanced than that. The phrase affirmative action gets people really riled up, which I've also been thinking about recently. Here's going to get even scary, everybody. You ready for this one? I'm going to step into the real world for just a second, okay? Just a second. Everybody hold on. I have never seen so many people worked up about a Supreme Court nomination that hasn't happened yet. But the president has said that the next Supreme Court nominee will be a black woman. And I have seen more people worked up about that announcement than I ever did about the fact that she would be the first one. We're talking 1 out of 115. And the side that you would be calling attention to there is the 1 and not the 114 that came previously. I think you're showing your hand a little bit there. Why does that bother you so much? If you are talking more about Mike Tomlin's continued unimpeachable excellence than you are about the currently trending towards 31, maybe Patrick Graham gets a job, maybe it ends up being 30 teams in the NFL that have all come to the independent and totally shocking conclusion that all the best candidates just happen to not be black. That is an imbalance there that is confusing to me. 1 in 114 or 1 in 32. You do not need to leap to the defense of the larger number there. You can acknowledge that we are looking at a fundamentally broken system. If these are the results, something in that system has to be poisoned. I don't think that that's that complicated or that difficult, but also every time I open Twitter, I am reminded that for some people it's either difficult or they actively are choosing not to participate in that side of the conversation. But maybe you would say, okay, Josh, what do I do? What do you want me to do about this? Don't feel the need. I haven't even looked at any of the comments yet. We'll see. I'll look during the break. You do not need to tell me how probably not racist every NFL owner is. Instead, start asking better questions. Ask a question. Go, wait, hold on. Yeah, wait, why are the things the way that they are? Just try to start there. Just try to start with, well, how did we get here? You don't have to say, but you're telling me that NFL owners wouldn't hire the best candidate because he's black? No, I'm telling you that NFL owners might not ever see the best candidate because he's black. That path to a meeting with ownership is made fundamentally more difficult because of the system that is currently the only way to play that game. to rise up those ranks. It's not an unbeatable system because you will find currently your one black head coach. But you can say that it's not an unbeatable system while also acknowledging that it's also not an equal one. I don't think that's very difficult to cop to. The NFL knows that it's not an equal one. They created and enforced the Rooney Rule. You don't have to defend that. They don't have to defend themselves. I do not believe that the New York Giants somewhere in their offices have a plaque on the wall that says only hire white head coaches. I bet that's not up there, if I had to guess. But also, their last 3 head coaching hires have been Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, and Joe Judge. So I don't know that they do have a good strategy, but they've tried those 3 guys. Now they're on Brian Daboll. Maybe it'll work out. But there's a lot of leaping to the defense of people that you don't know or systems that you want to believe are meritocracy despite having very little evidence to that in an industry that is really bad at hiring head coaches. Kevin Clark's story in The Ringer about this a month ago at this point is fabulous. Just looking at how cookie cutter the NFL hiring process is. You just try to get a coordinator that's been near a conference championship game and hire them and hope that it works out. It is a very unimaginative process. But it's also one that has been basically untouched for so long here that you're seeing similar results over and over and over again. I also thought it was funny that the NFL, like 2 hours after that suit became public, came out and said, there is no merit to these accusations. And look, again, maybe the specifics of all of this did not go down the exact way they're laid out in the lawsuit. I do not know. It's possible. But if I told you that I heard that teams weren't interested in hiring Eric Bieniemy because they were concerned that he was actually a winged lizard person, that would take more than 2 hours to confirm had no merit to those accusations. You'd have to call people for at least 2.5 hours. You got to at least find all those people. That story broke at like 3 or 4 o'clock yesterday. You get to John Elway that quick? I don't know. I don't know that this case is going to get where Brian Flores wants it to, if it will ever reach discovery, where you actually start digging through some things. I don't know if anyone's ever going to be deposed. NFL owners have I will not talk to you money that they will use as a shield and have used as a shield for a very long time. But the one thing that I would like to at least get on the same page on, and I am sure that I am expecting or asking, that I'm asking for too much. But I would love to think that we could all get on the same page of, well, the result here is obviously wrong. With the mere fact that the NFL, as of this moment, has one black head coach in a league that is the majority black players. Just because that's how the workforce works. If those numbers were anywhere in line, you could at least come up with the logic of, well, players become coaches and coaches rise up the ranks and all of that. But if we could at least say that clearly this is not the appropriate end result, that this is clearly not the balance of a diverse league, if you could say that without immediately going, oh, what do you want them to do? Not hire a qualified white coach so they can hire an unqualified black one? Right in there, you're making a whole lot of assumptions about the qualifications of people that are literally fictional. Brian Flores is tremendously qualified with what he has done as an NFL head coach. He also might be a pain in the ass to work with. That's possible. If you had a perfect meritocracy, maybe it would still be Sean McVay versus Zach Taylor in the dorky white dude Super Bowl. I don't know. Totally possible. But you can't think that this has been a just system this whole time. And if you that is impossible. It is impossible to know anything about history at all and to say that there was not a time when both the sport and the country were founded on racist principles. And if we can at least agree on that, tell me when that changed. And if you think that it changed at a time where Mike Tomlin is the only black head coach currently pacing up and down an NFL sideline, refusing to blink, despite the fact that his quarterback is like a 7-foot-tall Lego man, I don't know that there's a real reasonable way for you to have come to that conclusion that things have all gone okay. That it's a meritocracy, where everyone's where they're supposed to be, and that there's nothing to adjust here, nothing to see here. Specifically for Mike Tomlin, there's everything to see here because you don't blink and your eyes are open 100% of the time. And we'll probably have this conversation again next year. It won't be Brian Flores, but it'll probably be somebody else. Maybe Jim Caldwell puts his name on something, and maybe he doesn't. Tony Dungy wrote an open letter I saw. Cool. Maybe more coaches putting their experiences out there. More stories of their interviews being a sham, being a joke of some sort. Eric Bieniemy was told over and over and over again, right? Hey, go take these interviews. Go take these interviews. That dude's interviewed with half the league.
It's funny because we were
and doesn't have a job.
We were actually talking about him earlier. I remember when this, like one of the first times where it was, cause in my head, in my mind for a long time, the Rooney Rule is great, right? It forces you to interview. It's great. And then I forget who told the story. It might have been Bomani. Deuce Staley, for who we talked about earlier today, for 3 straight off seasons when he was the running backs coach, was getting head coaching jobs or head coaching interviews to fulfill the Rooney Rule. He was never getting these jobs.
Right.
The problem is after 2 or 3 off seasons, now all of a sudden people start asking, well, you've interviewed for like 8 jobs and you haven't gotten any of them. Why? Eric Bieniemy's off. Like there once you've offered or you've interviewed for 15 jobs and you haven't gotten any of them, that starts to become, a bad mark on your resume.
Right.
Owners and GMs look at that. It's like, well, these people didn't want him, so clearly there's something wrong.
The Dolphins hired Brian Flores to lose at the beginning. He won too much and then won, and then they fired him and said, well, his final record ended up being. Again, that is not a story that could only apply to a non-white head coach. That could happen to Ben McAdoo. It definitely happened to David Culley. That is not proof positive of, again, something that could exclusively have been done to Brian Flores, but as a part of Brian Flores' story, and now was having a hard time, I think now it's over, having a hard time landing another head coaching job despite a resume that for any eye test, you go, wait a second, Jim Caldwell, I remember joking about Jim Caldwell because he always looked a little clueless, and he was a coach of the Lions. I go back and put that back in the context of Detroit Lions history. Go, wait a second, that man might have been a magician.
Certainly good enough to deserve another shot.
You would think.
Maybe he fails, right? And then maybe that's it. But, worst coaches get more chances.
Bill O'Brien is going to be a head coach again. Vic Fangio interviewed with the Jags this offseason.
Adam Gase got 2 jobs.
Adam Gase got 2 jobs. But you have your offensive. I'm gonna just describe 2 people, and you tell me what they look like in your. Just think about what they look like in your head, okay? You have your offensive genius wizard, and you have your coach who really knows how to connect to the players. One of those guys looks like Sean McVay, and one of those guys looks like Brian Flores. And those are the stereotypes that get built in. Here's one other example. I'm gonna steal this one straight from Bomani. I know we're right overdue for a break. Verderame will probably still answer our calls whenever we call him late. Sorry. Somehow, this is your fault, Rudy. I'll figure out why later.
To be fair, I did lose track of time a little bit.
But the Bomani example he made was Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle in college had I think it was in a bowl game here. He held Calvin Johnson to like 2 catches for 7 yards or something ridiculous. And then he got drafted to be a safety. So look, NFL team just didn't believe that a white guy could be a good corner. That was the underlying bias there. Despite him having an incredible performance against an alien of a wide receiver who we all remember and will remember for the rest of time. You can find less toxic examples of those biases tainting the way that people get hired and fired. But in this case, it is one stewed in centuries of racism. And you're only making it worse if you deny that it is still a problem that still exists. Because to deny it is to let it continue to just fester. I think the NFL even knows that it's a problem. But Roger Goodell can't make a old white owner hire differently. Which is, by the way, that group is pretty old and pretty white. Just like pretty much every power structure within the NFL. And with that, a lot of the power structures within America. But specifically the NFL, because this is a sports show. At least, I guess the intro may have been right for this segment. This was entirely sports and commentary, I suppose. I guess still only almost entirely sports. I want to ask Verderame about that a little bit, and then we'll also, just to get even more fun goofs and ha-has in today's show, talk about Chiefs-Bengals again. Awesome. Can't wait for that. I am excited to talk to Matt Verderame, though. We'll talk to him whenever we come back.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
My lawyers will be in touch if you continue to slander me as someone who ever has gone to Applebee's after dark.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Plenty to talk about with our friend Matt Verderame of FanSided. I wish more of it was fun. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. You can read his work at fansided.com. Stacking the Box, the podcast, the column form, the Arrowhead Addict podcast. There's a lot of stuff. I would say follow him on Twitter so you can see everything that he's doing. But Matt, first of all, my apologies for the fact we're calling you late. I was gas bagging. I know Rudy told you that, and then Rudy said that you were, of course, unfazed as usual, because I think that you might be maybe second to Joe Burrow, one of the coolest people in terms of facing adversity, that I know, until we get to one very specific sort of realm of life. And I would like to just ask you about your feelings towards 3 new flavors of bottled iced latte that is apparently being sold in stores near you. Hostess has honey bun, Twinkies, and ding dong flavored iced lattes now being sold, presumably in convenience stores, whenever you need a little extra pick-me-up to start your morning. Will you be starting your morning with any of those?
I've never had a coffee in my life because I think it smells awful. But so the answer is no. I would also say, look, you can love coffee. If you sit there finding yourself tempted to buy one of those, put it down, go outside, get in your car, take your car to your doctor's office, and get an EKG. Okay? Because you're probably going to need one.
I think this has come up before. Also, I don't think I just learned this for the first time. I'm pretty sure you've said it, but you never having a coffee at any point in your life is shocking to me.
Hate the smell. Hate it as a kid. Tried it once as like a 12-year-old. Thought it was the most disgusting thing I'd ever had, and it is not my deal. I hate everything about it.
We might be in rerun territory, but do you have an energy drink of choice? Is there a pick-me-up in the Verderame household?
No, I'm not an energy drink guy. When I was a kid, I was trying to think. I must have been like 16. I was playing a hockey game, and back in the day, and back when I played, it felt like everybody had like some kind of energy drink. That was always very big. Our games were always at night, so it always seemed like people would always crush a Monster drink or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a 16-year-old kid, I was like, all right, well, I should probably try to fit in. So I was like, I'll try it. Like maybe it'll help me. So I grabbed a 4-pack of Mountain Dew Amp,
mm-hmm.
and I had like 3 of them.
Oh no!
In a span of about 10 minutes.
Oh no!
And I remember I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on during the game because I was shaking like I just had a stroke.
Yeah.
And then I realized like it was because I drank so much energy drink. That was one and done for me. It was like drinking gasoline.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That.
That sounds horrible. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I understand how you arrived there then. So I really thought we were going to talk to you this week about the Chiefs beating the Bengals and then getting ready for a Super Bowl. I was really excited for that conversation. And then last week happened. And I'll just let you pick your favorite starting point if I give you the very vague lob question of what the bleep happened there, Matt? What happened?
So there's a lot of ways to attack this, kind of like you're alluding to. But I think, to me, the biggest way and the most obvious way is they played with an earned arrogance in that game, and in the second half and overtime, and the last 10 seconds of the first half. They got up to them. The Chiefs are so talented that a lot of times they don't have to do the small things well. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be great situationally. They don't have to take what their team gives them. I thought it bit them on Sunday. And, look, I feel like it's easy to just always go, the coaching, because that's a lot of times the most unquantifiable thing. So it's easy to just say that because then it's harder to be called out on it for being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I thought in that game, I thought Andy Reid did a horrific job in the last 31 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Mahomes was terrible late in the game. No one's exonerating him. Like he struggled mightily in the game. But you're facing a team that even in real time, I mean, you're watching a game and the Bengals are just dropping everybody on every play. I mean, they're not even hinting that they're going to try to stop you up front. You have invested multiple high-level draft picks. You've invested $80 million in your left guard. And you have this great offensive line, and you're running for 6.5 yards to carry.
Mm-hmm.
And they're dropping 8 guys on every play, and you just won't run the ball. You just will not. I mean, the play before Mahomes' first pick, which I think was the final nail in a lot of ways for them in that game. McKinnon runs for 7 yards, 2nd and 3. Just run the football. You're killing Cincinnati running football. And I feel like this is probably the hottest take I'll have about them, and maybe I've ever had about them in a lot of ways. I think there's a time where Andy Reid just hates running the ball, and so even when they're successful at it, it's not fun for him to run the football. So they won't run the football. They don't want to run the football because it's not pleasurable. So they're going to throw it no matter what, and it doesn't. The Bengals could have dropped 11.
Right.
They just kept throwing it like that. It's just, and I think that sometimes is the difference between what could be a dynasty and what might end up being one Super Bowl win. Is like you watch those Patriots teams over the years. That team was ruthlessly efficient. If you did something like with Cincinnati on Sunday, Belichick would have ran the ball every down.
Mm-hmm.
Every down. They would just hand off, ran right down the field. Cincinnati basically bet that Reid was not going to run the football. He was not going to. If they would have lost, I mean, I think the Bengals even would tell you that they knew if the Chiefs handed off there, it was ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just there was no way to stop them otherwise. I mean, the first half was evidence of that. And again, I think it was just an arrogance. I mean, you saw it the last play of the first half, and that's on Mahomes as much as it's on Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Like Patrick Mahomes has been in this league now for a while. You can't throw that football. You just can't. I don't care. Look, if there's nobody within 5 yards of Tyreek Hill,
right.
Okay, fine. There's 2 guys there.
Yeah.
You just throw it at his feet, throw it out of bounds, throw it over his head. You cannot hit him in stride there and just hope that he can make 2 guys miss. It's the playoffs. You're not playing some throwaway game in Week 6 against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the Chiefs act like every game was a throwaway game against the Jets because they're just so damn talented that it shouldn't matter.
I think you're right to say there's like an Andy Reid path and a Patrick Mahomes path. I want to follow the Andy Reid one first here at least. Because, look, at this point, I think I have an almost comical disdain for the running game that I don't actually have, but that's sort of the way that it's all developed around me. I grew up loving watching the Chiefs and their running backs and the running game and all of that. My gripe is always when teams run it too much in neutral situations or just for the sake of running the ball when I don't think it makes sense. If you are prepared to drop 8 dudes into coverage and I could run for 6 yards a carry, I think that's a very reasonable time to do it. I think your read on Andy Reid is right. He has always had that stick to him, even more so I think in Philadelphia than it's stuck to him here in Kansas City, of like he just does not want to run the football. And when you have Patrick Mahomes, I think that is an okay inclination to have. But I also think Andy Reid is really smart and good at coaching offensive football, and I don't understand why situationally there is not that glimmer for him there. The other part of it is, if you really want me to complain about something, they spent a first-round pick on a running back, and I know it was one they were planning on throwing the ball to more than they actually have, but they drafted a running back, and they rebuilt this offensive line, in part, of course, to protect Patrick Mahomes, but they chose some brawlers to do it, guys who could run block in more of a power scheme and not always doing, zone stuff, moving laterally and preparing for RPOs and trying to figure out if they can blast on the field or not. I don't understand. There's a disconnect somewhere in there for me, Matt, where I don't with the philosophy of how this team was built versus how they actually used them in the biggest moments.
So look, I'll eventually go on a tirade, I'm sure, about this because the way they play, I'll never understand it. But you know what? Listen, to me, the bottom line is you do whatever the other team doesn't want you to do.
Yeah.
And analytics, and I don't hate analytics, but I do think the movement of it in a lot of ways has made everybody, or at least a lot of people, think, well, running the ball is just bad. No, running the ball is not bad. And people that think that drive me out of my mind. Like, it's not a bad thing. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter. If you do whatever you have to do to win a football game. And if you're running for 6.5 yards a clip like the Chiefs were in that game, you run the ball. I don't care who your quarterback is. And by the way, second half of that game, your quarterback looked like Zach Wilson.
Right.
So maybe you ought to just hand the ball off and help the quarterback out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he's facing an 8-man coverage situation where they're spying him. He's not going to get rid of the ball effectively most of the time in that spot. You're running the ball at an outrageous clip, and you just won't run.
Yeah.
You just refuse to run. And to me, I don't care that your quarterback is Mahomes. I don't care that you have Kelsey and Hill. Because guess what? When Hill's doubled and Kelsey's doubled, and there's 4 other defenders still out there, and you're hoping that Byron Pringle or Demarcus Robinson beat man coverage, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're not going to throw the ball successfully because no one in the history of the NFL will throw the ball successfully like that. And, again, I think there is a thing with the Chiefs, and you can see it, by the way, in the first 2 playoff games, even though they won. They just believe at times that they're so much better than the other team that they just don't have to play like every other normal NFL team does. The Steelers game, now you'll look back and go, oh, that game was a blood, which it was. Kansas City killed Pittsburgh. Go back to the beginning of the game, 0-0. The Chiefs defense had given up, I think, about negative 1,000 yards to Pittsburgh before the first 4 or 5 drives of the game. Andy Reid decides that's the time to pull out a Hardman, Darrell Williams run-pass option. I guess in that play it wasn't even an RPO. It was just an option play for Hardman to either keep it or a handoff. They've never run the play in the history of the franchise. Hardman fumbles the ball because, you know, he's not a quarterback.
Right.
And the Steelers pick it up and run it in. It's the only way in the world at that point the Chiefs could have lost that game. Was doing something like that. Chiefs do it. Why? Because of the Chiefs. Because, again, nothing ever seems to faze them. The Bills game, which might be the greatest football game I've ever seen. You're up 23-21 with like 7 minutes left. You just got a big punt return from Hill. 3rd and 1. I believe about Buffalo's 11 or 12-yard line. You could do anything you want there. The Chiefs' answer to that is, hey, you know what would be great? Blake Bell under center running the option. I mean, this kind of stuff, I'm sorry, it's not cute, it's not innovative, it's dumb. It's dumb. It was dumb against Pittsburgh, and it was dumb against Buffalo, but they survived it because they're so talented. They made it work. Then you go into that game against the Bengals, and you just play dumb. You play dumb at the end of the first half, cost you points. You play dumb all through the second half because you don't feel like running the football because it's not fun to run the football. And it's sometimes with them. Look, and by the way, their defense, while I thought they actually played pretty well in the game, they're not without their own set of blame a little bit in that thing. Like, you're playing a Bengals team, just gave up 9 sacks to Tennessee. You can't stop anybody. The Chiefs have 1 sack in the game. And I'm sorry. Look, Frank Clark, you're making $28 million. You got to sack somebody. Like, I don't want to hear about, like, well, you know, he's good against the run. Who cares? You're getting $28 million. I don't care that you're good against the run. Like, Chris Jones had, frankly, let's be real. He had a couple plays if Chris Jones makes him, the game's different. It doesn't make him. I mean, and listen, Chris Jones, I thought, played well in the game, and you know, I know he had COVID late in the year. How much does that affect the guy? I mean, some guys took a long time to recover. Maybe it had no effect. Maybe it did. I don't know. And I'm not going to speculate on the man's health. And he's a great player, but like, you got to make that play, man. You're making over $20 million a year. And at the end of the drive, where it went from 23 to 13 to 21-21. Spagnuolo's got Fenton on Chase in man coverage, just over and over and over with Sorensen to help. And then on the 2-point conversion, Sorensen in man coverage has no idea what he's doing and just gets torched. And it's like you're playing Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen all season long, knowing full well it's basically 11 on 9 and if they're on the field. And you just keep doing it. Like, that stuff, like, it matters. I think sometimes the Chiefs feel like it just doesn't matter because we'll just overcome it. But why should you always have to overcome it? Well, and finally, you didn't overcome it, and now you're home.
Yeah, I think that I mean, we talked about that some on Monday. I think of just like the little things that we spend breathless hours talking about in the offseason, getting another pass catching option. If you are going to throw the ball, right? You mentioned you can't be relying on Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson to win their one-on-one matchups as the key to keep your offense moving or not. So if you have a third option that you like better there, if it's T. Higgins or someone else, that changes things. Or if you don't take a little bit of a kind of annoying victory lap on Dan Sorensen after he picks off a batted pass and houses it. If you are just good with phasing him out and finding a way to get Armani Watts on the field, maybe your defense is better in a big moment in the playoffs. Like those little things we spend so much time on, they do come around. We haven't had to see them very often actually matter because Patrick Mahomes exists. So I want to talk about him also. Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say really quickly. Like, look, the Sorensen thing, as much as I think it in some ways is indefensible, if you want to go three safeties, I also understand it a little bit in the sense, like, Watts has never played really any kind of meaningful football in his life, and there might be a reason for that. Like, I'm not at practice every day. You know, maybe there's just a reason. The one that, to me, though, is beyond indefensible is the Neiman thing.
Yeah.
You have Bolton and Gay, who are like these really good young linebackers.
Yeah.
And you're just yanking them off every field, every play on third down. And, you know, there's this idea, I think, like, well, you know, they're inexperienced. Who cares?
Right. They're inexperienced, shot out of a cannon.
What does it matter?
Yeah.
Like I went to fight. You know, I don't want to. I'm not trying to pick on anybody or people, but like, tell me what one of those guys doesn't do as well as Ben Neiman. You know, I mean, look, Ben Neiman, to his credit, undrafted. The guy's a good special teams player. I think sometimes fans, and I, you can be a fan of you want to be. I think sometimes fans unfairly blame Neiman and Sorensen like it's their fault. They're being put in positions that they can't succeed in.
Yes.
It's not. If you ask me to build your house and your house falls down, well, it's your fault. I'm not a carpenter.
Right.
You didn't ask me to build your house. I don't know how to build your house.
Right.
You shouldn't be going, hey, Dan, what do you think? You and a receiver, one-on-one in space?
Yep.
I mean, it's not his fault. You're asking them to do something you can't do. And I just, again, it comes down to this idea with them sometimes that it doesn't matter. Because, well, they have Mahomes, they've only got the guys, and they'll figure it out because whatever. They're so much more talented. And I think, you know, even the year they won the Super Bowl, it all worked out, and they won, and they deservedly won. Like I'm not, no reason to criticize. They won, and rightfully so. They were the best team in football that year. But you know, even that year, I mean, you're running Rose Bowl right parade and the Super Bowl, like it worked, and that's why they won because all that stuff worked, and Wasp was a miracle, and it worked. But like, it's really hard to get all that stuff to work all the time.
Yeah,
it is like it's too much. It's too much fluff for a team that doesn't need any filler.
Yeah. Well, so I do want to ask about the Mahomes side of things also there, because I mean, you mentioned the times that they played dumb, and we do have times where you've seen Andy Reid miss a big moment or mismanage something or whatever, but I don't think I've ever legitimately seen Patrick Mahomes look out of sorts for 31 minutes of football, and he did in that game, and I don't know why.
You know, that one's a little harder for me because he was awful in the second half, and he was awful in overtime, and he deserves the criticism he's getting because when you're as great as he is and when you're paid as much as he is, you have to be great all the time, and that's not fair, but it is reality. And look, I thought part of it was he just flat didn't play well. The first pick he threw was one of the worst picks I've ever seen a quarterback throw. I mean, right into like literally 5 different guys.
Yeah.
Like, even if the guy who picked it off didn't pick it off, like 3 other guys were waiting to pick it off. It was one of the worst throws. I don't know what he was doing. It was a bizarre-looking play. Everything about it was weird. In overtime, like, your first 2 plays were to DeMarcus Robinson.
Yep.
I mean, DeMarcus Robinson had done about as much as I had done in that game.
Yep.
Until you got to overtime. And your first 2 plays were like, hey, let's get D-Rob involved right now. It makes no sense. He was bad. I think, I'm not him. I'm speculating. I would say part of it, I think, was he didn't play well, just bottom line. But I also think part of it was the Bengals came out, I think, surprised them a little bit. Not too many teams only give them a 3-man rush. And the Bengals did none of that really in the first half of the game. And I give the Bengals, that's where I do give Cincinnati a lot of credit. Cincinnati basically said, we're going to bet that we can cover you with 8 guys, and we're going to bet that you won't run the ball. Won the bet.
Yep.
And, you know, ultimately, look, I do think Mahomes deserves a lot of the credit when things go well because he's usually at the epicenter of it, and he deserves a lot of blame in a game like that. But, again, while I do think he does deserve blame, and I won't argue with anybody who gives him some, I really think that's a game where, like, he bails them out all the time. At 13 seconds is a pretty good example of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got to help your quarterback sometimes. And that's a spot where they're begging you to basically do anything to beat them other than just have Mahomes drop back and throw it for 55 times, and you just won't help them. It's like you're looking at this 8-man coverage scheme and just saying, look, Pat, I know we can run for 7 yards on any play, but instead we want you to try to fit one in there to Pringle. and it's
right.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, what'd you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah. I want to take a second to ask you about Brian Flores. I want to ask about you being in Mobile for the Senior Bowl here. So my last Chiefs thing is that with that game being the lasting memory of this team, and with everything you've already laid out on Reed and Mahomes and the running game and all of that, if you're Brett Veach right now, or if you're just assessing what their offseason is going to look like, is there anything that has now risen up your rankings in terms of prioritization for this offseason that we haven't already talked about?
No, I think it's probably all the same. Even if they'd won the Super Bowl, I think I'd feel the same. I don't think you can allow a bad half of football, no matter how bad it was, to completely change what you want to do. Because then I think all of a sudden, you start overreacting, and one thing leads to another, and then you're all of a sudden in a bad spot. But
right.
I think they need to fix their pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be 30th in the league in sacks and be a team that has as many leads as the Chiefs do. Like, you should be
Were
able
they
to sack
30th?
Yes,
Oh
they're
my
30th in the league in sacks.
goodness! That's
Like,
a weak nation, sack nation. That is. Holy smokes!
And a third world nation.
Yeah,
as far as that's concerned. Look, you need to be able to get sacks. I mean, and I get it. Look, it's not the end all be all. You go look at pressure rate. But like, you've got to be able to finish at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to finish. I mean, Pittsburgh this year had 55 sacks. She said 30. I mean, which team was leading a lot more all year long?
Yeah.
Which team has you in a pass situation all year long? And if you're the Chiefs, like, what do you care if some team runs for 4.5 yards a carry? That's something I will say. I will never fault the Chiefs if they rank toward the bottom. They don't care. You care that teams can't throw the ball on you. And, I think that's one thing. Look, Frank Clark getting named to the Pro Bowl, that's all fine and good. Frank Clark was not a Pro Bowler this year.
Mm-mm.
And let's be honest. I would re-sign Melvin Ingram. I think he was terrific. Jerron Reed, it sounds like from his Twitter feed, basically has already accepted the fact he's gone. Which I think it's probably fair to assume. And then, look, I think you've got to get another edge rusher. I think the linebackers are fine. I would let Hitchens go. I think it's probably time to cut him. Let Neiman go. Let Sorensen go. I think Charvarius Ward's important to bring him back. And then, look, let's not dance around. It's a big question that look, Orlando Brown is going to come back one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they have to tag him or sign him or whatever, he's coming back. The big question is what's happening with 32 back there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that they're going to re-sign him. I know for a fact the Chiefs genuinely do love and respect Tyrann Mathieu. And I know, and Matthew's been very open about the fact that he wants to come back. But he's going to be 30. And the Chiefs have a lot of cap considerations, and they've got other things they need to do. And look, I certainly think if they bring him back, there's a big case to be made for that. But at the same point, if, and I don't know if this is the case, but let's just say he says, I want 4 years and $65 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're the Chiefs, are you paying that? It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Because if he ages poorly, you got a big problem. I'm very interested to see how that dance goes. And then from there, but I think they're going to be active because they can create cap space. They can sign Brown, and that'll be a cheap hit the first year. They can extend Hill. They can cut Clark. They can cut Hitchens. They can do things like that. So I think they've got to improve their edge rushing and then find a third weapon, if you will, on offense to help Kelsey and Hill so that if those guys are doubled, it's not just a complete free-for-all on Mahomes.
This is an impossible thing to try to. Hey Matt, give me real quick your best 30 seconds on the Brian Flores thing. So I won't ask you to do that, but I am interested in what you have seen and heard from that all developing yesterday into tonight, and what your money would be on in terms of the impact that it could have on the NFL world.
Well, I think down here in Mobile, where the NFL basically everybody is. I think the general idea is, give Brian Flores a lot of credit. It takes a lot of guts do what he did. I mean, he might be losing his career over this. And I don't think I've run into one person who doubts the validity of his claims.
Right.
But man, it's an awful hard thing to prove.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that it's not without merit. It's not to say that I don't commend him. I frankly think he's got plenty of merit. I do commend him. But it's very hard to prove intent in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to prove that, the Giants had definitely already hired Dable before I got there, and it's because of racial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's hard to, the Giants can easily just say, hey, look, Belichick was overly excited, and we hadn't made that decision, but, yeah, we really were impressed with Brian Dable, who does have very good credentials. It's hard, like Stephen Ross, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The big question with that is, can you prove it?
Yeah.
Can you prove it? Was Stephen Ross dumb enough to put that in writing somewhere?
Right.
Or is that somehow on a recording? I know it was reported by NFL Network that there's a witness to it. Okay, but you've got to be able to prove these things, and that's where it becomes tricky. But I think most people around the league really have a lot of respect for Flores and what he did. It's just a question of, can you make it stick? Because otherwise, yeah, it's courageous and commendable, but in the end, I don't know that it changes much because you can't prove it.
Do you think this might be a question I need to save for a law expert? Is this going to get anything out there in the discovery period? Are they going to get to a place where we might get another round of emails, or is anyone going to get deposed? Or do you have any feel on that at all?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm bringing good old Kaiser for, right?
Yeah, all right. I'll save that for not even Seth wouldn't even know that. I don't think.
It's just hard to say. I mean, it depends how the lawsuit goes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pretend to be anybody who's an expert in law, but I think it's just one of these deals where, look, if Flores is going to win this lawsuit, it's probably going to be because of a combination of he's got a lot of ammunition,
mm-hmm.
and there are some smoking guns that maybe even he doesn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, Hugh Jackson came out today and was like, oh yeah, the Browns did a similar thing. Okay, Hugh, prove it.
Right.
I mean. And that's the thing. It's not that I don't believe it. Look, covering the NFL, I believe a lot of things in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. If it came out that Stephen Ross was paying him to lose games, I could absolutely see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
That would be okay. Surprising, but not the craziest thing I've ever heard alleged about an owner in this league.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just, again, it's just so hard to prove something like that. And when you talk about law, the burden's on you to prove it. It's not just what I may believe or somebody may believe. You've got to actually prove it.
Right. Yeah, it's easy to prove also that there is currently one black head coach in the NFL. That is a provable thing, which I think we could all look at and go, oh yeah, that something is wrong there. But what happens from a legal point there with Flores on is going to definitely be above our heads a little bit and very difficult, but I don't know. It just could be a very interesting time, and maybe something good comes out of it. Totally off the wall here now, but you're out there for the Senior Bowl, and if people want to get your work on everything that's been happening out there at the Senior Bowl, you've written about it some already up in FanSided. I saw that you've already made your called shot on Malik Willis, which is kind of exciting. I'm sure you have eaten a truly unbelievable number of Reese's Cups. Is all of that true?
The Reese's Cups I'm still working through. I've eaten enough barbecue to last me a lifetime. In fact, it's like 10 a.m. today. It was like, what are we going to do for lunch? Well, we go to get barbecue at 10 a.m.
Yeah, of course you should.
Which is just wrecked me. My God, I feel like I'm like a walking bag of sodium.
I can't believe you're still awake.
You woke me up when you called me. I to the spot because I needed a nap before I went out tonight. Spent the next 4 hours at the beach. Which, if anyone listening to this has ever been to the beach in Mobile, they know they don't just lit a candle for me. I mean, I'll tell you, I don't get COVID this week. It's never going to happen. I'll be immune for the rest of my life. But no, it's obviously you can follow me on Twitter and you can get all my work at FanSided. But it's been Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. I think everybody kind of came down here with the same idea of like, okay, we're going to see 6 quarterbacks, including Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh and Sam Howell of North Carolina and Carson Strong of Nevada, among others. Ritter as well of Cincinnati. And you're going to be like, okay, who's going to separate themselves? Because this is a year where, if you talk to a lot of people in the NFL, well, there's not really that consensus oh, this kid's a top 5 pick at quarterback. He's the number one guy. There's a lot of like, well, maybe sort of. Malik Willis is clearly, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most talented kid. Now, he's inconsistent. He's raw. His mechanics need help. His inaccuracies, I would say, show up consistently. But you watch the other 5 kids here, and nothing against them. I think they all have adequate arm talent. But Willis has just a cannon. And if you watch him throw the ball compared to anybody else here, it's almost comical how different it is. I mean, it's just the ball just flies out of his hand. Now, the problem is he also throws the ball like that when the receiver's 2 yards away from him.
Right.
So, again, he's some coaching, but his athleticism is there. We talked to him at length this morning. Really smart, interesting kid. He talked about how he watches NFL films now of all the defenses, so he knows the kind of coverages that each defensive coordinator plays and what his tendencies are. That was a pretty fast. I don't think I've ever heard a kid at Senior Bowl say something like that. That was really interesting. And he's just smart. You know, there's a reporter who asked him something to the effect, and I'm sure the reporter was Steelers-based, about, you know, I saw you talking to Coach Tomlin after the practice on Tuesday. What do you know about the Steelers? You know, trying to get some information. Malik Willis just said, what do you know about the Steelers? They're in Pittsburgh. And I was like, all right, I like it. Good answer.
Yeah.
So, you know, really impressive. I will tell you one guy, from a Chiefs perspective, really from an NFL perspective, but a guy who would fit with the Chiefs, I think. This kid, Perion Winfrey, is a defensive tackle in Oklahoma. That kid has been, it looks like if you took Chris Jones and just dropped him at the Senior Bowl, it's all right, Chris, have some fun for the next couple of days. That's what this kid has looked like. Like, when I watched him, the immediate comp in my mind was, oh, it's Chris Jones. And he's supposed to be, you know, early second round, somewhere in there. I would not be shocked if this kid tears up the combine and ends up being a late first round pick. He is an incredible athlete who has one move after the next from the D tackle spot.
Look, the Chiefs have one Chris Jones. They can make room for another. That would not hurt my. I'd love them to get an edge. I'd love a receiver. I would also take a second Chris Jones. That would not hurt my feelings one bit. Matt, I'll let you go if it's back to bed or out on the town or just a big pile of Reese's Cups. Appreciate you making the time for us here tonight, and we'll chat again soon.
Hey, no problem. Take care.
I'm just glad that Matt's staying upright out there in Mobile. The barbecue, the Reese's Cups. Apparently, we woke him up from a nap. Maybe we did him a favor by running late, Rudy. Maybe us being 10 minutes late on the clock.
A little bit more time.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. You're welcome, Verderame. We did you a favor. All right, so Perion Winfrey is on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And so is a big bowl of Reese's Cups.
Fun fact about Malik Willis, Auburn struggled to find one quarterback this year. Malik Willis started his career off at Auburn. They chose Bo Nix over him.
I mean, Liberty's just a quarterback factory. We've often said this.
Really are. I assume he
Hugh
ended
Freeze is still there, right?
I was going to say my get, or is it Gus Mills? Which one is that?
Hugh Freeze. I think it's Hugh Freeze.
I think you're right, actually.
I think I'm right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Coach from a hospital bed.
Yeah. You're right.
Just a perfect. We could do an entire show talking about Hugh Freeze being at Liberty University. That could be a whole show. Unfortunately, though, I've been running late on breaks all night long. I don't see any real need to wrap it up. But Rudy earlier did say, just be sure to break by 45, and we're about there.
I mean, it would be, if we broke at 45, it's a 35-minute segment with Verderame. That's normal amount. We just started,
We started late. We didn't go short with Verderame.
No.
And
we're doing fine.
I understand. The way this show is going, I'm afraid that at the end of the hour here, we're going to call Gary Lezak. And it's just going to be one of those days. Honestly, I'm kind of tempted to see how long it takes before Rudy just cuts me off with the liner.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the... listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Rudy Salazar of Sports Radio 810 WHB. If J.J. Watt had retired 4 years ago, would he have been a Hall of Famer at that point?
Yes.
You're an idiot! There's no way you would have been a Hall of Famer if you would have retired 4 years ago! You're a fool! You're a fool! There's no chance! If he would have retired 3 years ago, he would have been!
With Joshua Brisco.
Sports debate. Jazz hands.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So how do we feel about the Washington Commanders? I think that might have been the first time I've said it out loud, and I didn't like how it sounded.
Mm-hmm.
To say nothing of the uniforms, which we will circle back around on.
I'm a big fan of the Commandos.
So, because earlier there was, I think it was Aspen that had the tweet that said, can we just call it it was Credible Hulk on the Twitch, said, so it's the new chant in Washington, let's go Commando. Now that's very good. I've also seen lots of people calling them the Washington Commies. I think that's pretty fun. There are some more profane ones that I probably won't say here, but there's lots of great nickname potential. I don't know if that's what you want whenever you are announcing your team's new brand. But like seeing it written out, it's fine. Like I saw lots of people are like, oh, it's very XFL, USFL, AAF, AFL, FFL, which is the Effin' Football League. That one doesn't exist yet, but I'd like to start
Coming
it.
soon
Starting in spring 2023.
Near you.
I understand that. People also, I think, gave that to the Cleveland Guardians. You know, like I just think that for the most part, new things we're going to associate with the new Flash in the Pan League or whatever, because we get new USFL team names all the time. Is the Tampa Bay Bandits really stupider than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Probably not.
Probably not. We're just used to it. I got obliterated on Twitter a long time ago. I'll say this again now because it's still true.
Every day.
Every day. I tweeted something along the lines of, like, if the Kansas City Chiefs had always been called the Kansas City Wolves, you would be just as attached to Wolves as you are Chiefs right now. That is true. It's just the thing that you grew up. Like, it's nostalgia and what you grew up loving, and you might not like it as much or whatever. But, I mean, that mostly what we're doing there is the value judgment of, we put value in the familiar thing. Are the Patriots and Colts good nicknames better for a team? Is Patriots better than Guardians or Commanders? I don't know. We're used to it, though. We've heard it a lot.
Is
so
Raiders
it is for
not
us.
a little gimmicky?
Yeah. I mean, like, but it's been that way forever, and so we love it.
Name.
By the way, I'm not telling you any of the current ones are bad or any of the new ones are good.
Los Angeles team name are the Rams and the Chargers.
The Chargers. What is a Charger? Is it a lightning bolt? Is it a horse?
And a goat, basically.
We have the Los Angeles Clippers and Lakers. There are no lakes in LA, and a clipper is a boat thing, and there's no boat imagery anywhere. That is, for me to say there is that we love the thing that's been that way for a while. If it's new, it sucks. That's typically how that goes.
I do wish they stayed as the Washington football team because it was growing on me.
And it grows on you. But see, that's exactly it.
Like the
At the time, I'm sure you were saying they don't even have a team name. They're called the Washington Football Team. How dumb is that?
It was like a soccer thing, kind of, but in football.
And also, all their branding, that crest they have and everything, looks like they should be called the Washington Football Team.
It is,
I agree with you.
I thought the same thing. It was a soccer crest. I thought the exact same thing.
But if they would have immediately gone to Washington Commanders day one, we'd be used to it by now.
Yep.
The uniforms, however, we have a moral duty to not get fully used to those. The burgundy and gold ones are going to be fine. Although it has that big crest above the names, it looks horrible. But the black ones have like this almost camo kind of thing around the collar, on the shoulders. And by the way, Washington football now has a black uniform alternate. That doesn't need to be there. The white ones have the like Arizona Diamondbacks short-lived, bloody like mesh pattern. And also, none of them match the other ones. It's totally disjointed. It's a very weird rebrand. I can't believe Dan Snyder's team bleeped something up.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Kansas City knows a winner, and for selecting...
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Dear God, if you can hear me, hi, it's me. If you can hear me right now, if you could do something to have the Chargers hire Jason Garrett as their head coach, I would really appreciate that. Because I just think we all need a laugh sometimes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we needed 2 more minutes on the Washington Commanders. I don't know. I don't know how it sounds. We'll get used to it. But Aspen said, did you see the years they chose for the crest are the calendar years they won a Super Bowl and not the league year? That's hilarious. And then also that Commanders is too many syllables. That's true. The Commies as a nickname is very funny. And here's my take. And this is not this is not about to be a should the Chiefs change their name hour. Well, I'm sure there'll be some day in like, I don't know, June when we're all forcing that conversation. That's not where I'm at right now. I'm saying I don't care. I do kind of care, but it's not what I want to talk about for the next hour. But I have 2 things. One is that I think, generally speaking, as we sit here on Groundhog Day, I prefer team names that are specifically named after animals. I prefer animal mascot, animal team names. I am a Phoenix Suns fan. That does not check off that box. I also, I guess, could claim if I wanted to go 2 hockey teams, the Lightning, which is not an animal, obviously, but I also get the Coyotes. I love the branding that can be based off of an animal, because you can do a silly one, you can do a fighting one, there's lots of different ways you can take that.
I would say
I like those.
For me, or when I say for me, just the teams I root for. Obviously, like we have Kansas City, where it is
Chiefs and Royals are both categories of people, I guess.
One thing I like, and Denver did this really for all their teams. You have the Avalanche, which is a
weather event.
It is a mountain thing, right? So it is a Colorado thing.
That's
you have
true.
the Nuggets, which is mining, which is again mountains, Colorado. You have the Rockies. What the mountains are called.
All geographical.
And even like Broncos, like that Colorado is a place where Broncos roam, right? So like, I'm not a Broncos fan, obviously, but I do think the city of Denver did some pretty good nicknames where they're unique.
Yeah.
Like you don't have these teams like
they're not the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah,
the
not even
Minneapolis.
in like college and stuff, right? You don't see Avalanche, you don't see Rockies. It is unique to their region. And it's a solid job by the city and whoever decided. I don't want to I don't know if the current owners all figured that stuff out, but
yeah,
good job.
What I will say, I hear that argument and I take it to heart. I think that is a good logic for naming a team. If you can do something very geographically specific, I think that's cool
and unique, right? Like
absolutely,
it's gotta be unique.
Absolutely.
And I mean, also good.
I think I would prefer one of them to be the Colorado Cougars, but that even that's kind of generic. There are a lot of teams named Cougars, right? So maybe not.
It's not that you can't be generic. I do think it's cool when you're able to do something that is like, hey, there is a historical tie to this area, and it's unique. I think that's pretty cool.
I think, but
also the Nuggets mascot is a lion. We got Rocky the mountain lion.
Oh, I forgot about that. You're right. I think of the little cartoon miner guy with the cartoon pickaxe. I do love him.
Rocky every game goes to half court and throws balls over his head, and if he makes it, somebody wins. And one time he makes it like 8 times a year. Like he's pretty good at it.
Okay.
One time he was clearly going to make it. Video replay showed. Russell Westbrook jumped up and knocked it out.
Wow! Yeah. I think I remember that actually.
Cost somebody, I think some money. I don't know. I don't remember what the reward is, but it's the 2 Nuggets games I've been to. It's
an event.
That might be the most excited people get than the actual game itself.
I just currently have a page of NFL logos up. I'm going to give you some hot takes. I do think a region mascot name is a good call. I personally like the animal-based mascot names. I also like alliteration. I'm going to give you a couple of tiers here. So Miami Dolphins is perfect. It is regional and an animal.
Yep.
I mean, that's almost 10 out of 10.
If it's Miami.
Very Miami, and it works. Again, we're going to say a lot of these fit the region despite the fact that we're just used to it.
But you know what might be better?
if they
The
would have.
Miami Manatees?
The Miami Manatees would have been great.
Almost said matinee.
Matinees.
No, that's not it.
They only play at noon. I thought you were going to say what would be cool for the Dolphins to do is hire a head coach and allow them to try to win football games.
Nah. Winning's not cool, kids. You got to tank for a quarterback.
Similarly, here's a second one that I want to shout out mascot team name wise. This is alliteration and a team name, and I think technically there might be a loose local connection for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Alliterative, animal. I think there are like Florida wild jaguars somewhere out there.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that.
That one's pretty good. The issue is they've stunk forever, and so we don't respect them. But that one's pretty good.
Jaguars have not been found in Florida since prehistoric times.
Okay.
But they were prehistoric. They were there.
I mean, I don't know if Florida really existed in prehistoric times, and certainly there was nothing called Jacksonville.
But the area.
Fair enough. Here, you know what might be, and by my logic, and you know what, Rudy, by our shared logic here, regional, bonus points for team, for being a regional thing, bonus points for being an animal, bonus points for alliteration.
You know what does exist in Florida? Panthers. There's a hockey team, Florida Panthers.
Sometimes you hit cancel whenever my loading bar is at 90%, and those are the times that I really get disoriented. Because if you interrupt me halfway through, you want to jump in early on as I'm building up something, that's fine. We do that all the time. But sometimes the next two words out of my mouth were going to be the payoff, and you're like, the Florida Panthers. It's like, that's not...
Okay, let's rewind. What's the payoff?
It's just disorienting. That one really got me for some reason, and I'm both holding back laughter and tears.
I told you about the Jaguars down there.
I'm looking at Ice Pyro's comment on Twitch and trying to figure out what this means. The ABQ
American
AAA Club.
Q?
I think that just said it was saying Albuquerque.
Oh,
I think because they're the Albuquerque Isotopes, right?
Yeah, the Albuquerque AAA Club.
So the Albuquerque AAA Club is called the Isotopes after the Manhattan Project of Los Alamos. It's pretty good. I knew the Albuquerque Isotopes were a minor league baseball team.
Here's the thing.
That's very good.
If we're talking about nicknames,
minor league teams are on a different level.
We're not even counting minor league baseball teams because they're 10 out of 10s pretty much.
The Portland Pickles followed me back on Twitter recently, changed my made my day.
They're playing it here's the thing. It's like, when everybody says makes the joke when especially about the Chiefs Bills game, right? Everybody else is like that was football and everybody else is just playing a dumb game or whatever.
Yeah.
We're talking about nicknames and they're doing something completely different.
Next level. Totally. We should talk about some minor league baseball team mascots at some point.
River Bandits.
God, the Quad Cities River Bandits. We need more trash animal mascots also. There's the Rocket Pandas. Is that right? But their mascots are raccoon? Something like that. Trash Pandas? Maybe Rocket City Trash Pandas, I think is what the team name is, actually.
Nailed it.
Is that right? Rocket City Trash Pandas?
Rocket City
Man, that's
Trash
good.
Pandas.
And the mascot's a raccoon. NFL-wise, I don't love their color scheme. I don't love their logo.
Also, he's a raccoon in a dumpster that is a rocket ship, essentially.
Correct.
It is amazing.
It's a great logo. So I don't love this color scheme. I don't love the logo in its current form, but I think it is a unique animal, regionally relevant, alliteration's incredible. It's hard to do better than the Seattle Seahawks. You get CEC at the beginning of each of them. It's like you're saying yes in Spanish. More like the Yes-Addle Yes-Hawks. Is that the dumbest joke this show's ever been privy to? It's pretty stupid.
Top 5. Or bottom 5, however you look at it.
Because Why Not on Twitch said they think the animal names are too generic sometimes. I think that's fair. I think Detroit Lions is a great brand and mascot. You get a lot of lions, though. You get a lot of bulldogs. I get it.
Yeah, there are some animal names that are very generic. Not all are. Seahawks for one, right? It is. And even, again,
Dolphins really. And the Dolphins are a prestigious franchise.
Often. You can't find animal names that aren't generic. Wildcats, Bobcats. Not necessarily in professional sports, right? Because obviously all these things are trademarked.
Right.
But you start getting into college, high school, like you see, right? There's no professional Bulldog team, but if there ever was, like you would just think of every high school in America, because like I think my high school mascot was the Bulldogs. I think like 4 other teams in our league were the Bulldogs, right? Like Bulldogs were everywhere.
This is why we need the Green Bay Groundhogs.
Yep.
We need the Portland Prairie Dogs, or the Portland Possums, or the Oregon Opossums. You can decide if you pronounce the O or not based off of what your city or state name is. What about, Rudy, they had it. They could have been the Washington Wiener Dogs. We could have called them the Washington Wieners.
That'd been good.
We could have called them the Wiener Washers. Hold on.
Well,
Commanders is fine.
They might already have that problem. I'd like to think that was in the initial,
they thought about the Wiener Dogs.
And then someone's like, hold up a second.
No, we can't do that. Yeah, fair enough. I'm just looking at the mascots we have on the desk in here, obviously. It's like elephants. Is there an E?
Is Detroit's nickname the Emerald City?
The Emerald City
right?
Elephants? I don't know. It's somebody's nickname. I think that's Seattle, isn't it?
I think that might be Seattle, actually.
I think Emerald City is Seattle.
That makes sense.
If you Google Emerald City, it gives you a bleeping spin-off gritty remake of the freaking Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I typed in Emerald City and like
isn't Emerald City Comic-Con a Seattle thing?
Yeah, there's a guitar shop in Seattle called Emerald City Guitars. Like there are businesses, a lot of businesses in Seattle that look like they're go by Emerald City blank.
Emerald City Comic-Con is in Seattle. That was what I was thinking about. So that's I knew that reference at least.
McElroy brothers were there like a month ago.
That's
right?
why. All right, there it is. I was like, why did I even know that?
I think
that
that's
is
why
right.
Emerald popped into my head.
100%. I'm also going to pitch this out here. Again, I really don't want to do this conversation necessarily right now. But if the Chiefs did change their name and they just went the easiest thing of their current existing mascot, they just became the Kansas City Wolves, okay? Just stick with me just for a second. Please don't yell at me. Some teams should do this. The Chiefs just have a wolf mascot already. Imagine defense is on the field. There's a minute and a half left. The other team has one timeout. They got to go 80 yards to score a touchdown. They're down 6. And you hear over the loudspeakers at the stadium, you hear one perfect MP3 file of a wolf howling, and then the whole stadium just goes, and you just get 70,000 people howling like wolves.
And then John Elway complains to the referee, says it's too loud.
Exactly. I just think some teams should do that, because imagine being on the field with 70,000 people howling like a wolf around you.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. I think
Also,
something primal would happen to you there.
Also, like, they could still do that. And they probably should.
Yeah,
Chiefs,
go for it.
Whoever you've assigned to listen to our radio show to make sure there's no slandering, pass that on.
Pass that along. Just consider. I just think. Look,
is it slandering when you speak it, or is it libel? I always forget this.
Slander is spoken, libel is written. I think.
I was pretty sure that was right.
There's an alliteration thing there also, which is why I closed my eyes to try to remember. I think it's slander is spoken. I think this has been an unslanderous show today.
Absolutely.
It's not been organized or maybe very good.
Definitely.
But it's been. I don't think there's been any slander.
None at all.
Like Aspen says, that's good. Can we do that anyways? Absolutely. Casey Wolf is still the mascot. And the chop is a little problematic. And I know I said I didn't want to have this conversation today, but it is a little problematic.
Are you sure, Josh?
Yeah, I still don't really want to have this conversation
but Florida
today.
State does it.
If Florida State jumped off a cliff because they thought it would make you cool, would you jump off a cliff too?
Yes, Dad.
All right, fair enough. At least you committed.
Seminole for life. They gave me Mark Stoops.
I feel like it's like NC State doing. They're the Wolfpack,
They're the
right?
Wolfpack, yeah.
Are they doing a wolf howling thing in their like basketball arenas? Imagine that in a basketball arena. Also,
boy.
that would be crazy.
I don't know for a fact. Like I've never seen them do that.
Timberwolves
but
fans
they
do
have
this.
To be.
Someone's got to. I just want fans to start howling. We've got cheering and booing and your various, clapping and noise making.
My favorite in Europe, if you whistle, it's like an insult to the players.
A whistle?
You don't boo players. You whistle at them in soccer.
Really?
Yeah. So anytime if you're watching a soccer game and you hear a lot of loud whistles, that means they do not like that guy.
I've never been a very good whistler, but recently I've started getting really annoyed at Scout whenever she wanders off into like the back of our yard and I can't see her anymore. And so my whistle cheat has been the inhale whistle. I can't really like. This is about to become a can you whistle segment.
I'm pretty good at whistling.
Rudy just wet his whistle in there. He just took a nice swig of water.
My dad is so like my dad does the finger in the mouth whistle, which
I can't do that.
I cannot do that either.
You just keep talking. I'm gonna try to do an exhale whistle.
But so he had me and my sister trained. So
I can't look at myself in the video feed. It looks insane.
So anytime I hear like somebody whistling, like the finger in the mouth whistle, I immediately turn. Because I'm like, even if I know my dad is states away, I will turn and look around. Like, where's my dad at?
Yeah, because it's your dad's
call. I've got a pretty good loud whistle.
Let me see. Hold on. You hold. A good tone too. I can't do that at all. Let me see if I can get one loud inhale whistle.
I'm a good whistler. It annoyed the crap out of my sister growing up.
This is my Scout. It's not. I don't have the volume right now. This is Rudy again. Play the. Give me a little bump music, Rudy. Just something with some notes. I don't have this power. Why can't I whistle? Why am I a bad whistler? Okay, last whistle bit here, Rudy. Just give me your loudest whistle that you can muster up right now. I sound like a slide whistle.
My lips are getting a little dry. I don't got the stamina, but I got some pretty good, pretty good burst.
I wish I wouldn't have talked over that. That would have been a funny liner. The reason that I did talk over it is because I just realized that this was a Lebitard bit years ago.
I called my dad the first day I learned how to whistle. Proud. It's like, Dad, guess what I can do?
Dad, you can finally stop being ashamed of me. Listen. Are you trying to blow up a balloon, son? No, I'm whistling. Hold on. I'm going to get there.
He was so proud of me, too. See, in Europe, whistling is a sign of hate, but in my household, whistling was a sign of love.
And respect.
Because we have clearly lost our children. I cannot find them anywhere, but I know if I whistle, they'll find me.
As Pyro says, in a survival situation, a good whistle can save your life. I am just, I'm just hoping for a number of reasons that I never end up lost in the woods, because I just don't think it would go very well for me. I think I got a good hour and a half, and then eventually it's.
Get lost in the woods.
It's ball
just
game.
Don't move. That's the number one mistake everybody makes is they think I can get myself out, and then they make themselves more lost. If you get lost, just stay where you are.
Stay there. Is that actually good advice?
I think it actually is true. Like the less moving you do, the farther or the closer you are to the area where people assume you are.
Yeah.
It's when you start wandering around thinking you can find the place that's when you actually get nobody. Not only am I lost, but now I am lost everybody, because they're looking in the area they think I am, and I've wandered off to God knows where.
That might be one of those things that I just remember forever now. The other thing, here's another wildlife tip that I've heard.
It's like if you see a creek,
yeah,
100 feet from you can walk to that creek to get some water.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to your spot.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay in that area. Stay right
set
there.
up camp somewhere. Yeah. One thing that I remember that I learned at one point.
If your arm is trapped between rocks, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Getting through the flesh is pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's the nerves.
Yeah.
James Franco in 126 hours?
127. 127 hours.
I learned that from that movie.
Yeah, I did not watch that movie. I think I watched the 60-minute special on that guy at one point. I remember every detail including that the nerve was the worst part.
The movie was fine until they showed him trying to cut through, and you saw the nerve like extend, elast, because it was kind of elastic.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah, I'll never. No chance.
And
I'm not gonna watch it.
That part haunts me.
Again, I don't know how long ago that actually happened, but I think it was like a 60-minute story, probably after a day of CBS football. And here's a detail that I remember. I've never rewatched that. I remember that whenever he got out to a family that was like out in a van or whatever, they gave him Oreos because it's all the food they had. I remember that detail. I remember that he ended up, the first food he ate after escaping that was some Oreos as they took him to a hospital.
Seems like a pretty good first meal.
That is burned into my brain.
I mean, if you have to cut off your own arm, you deserve an Oreo.
For sure. Double stuffed.
Preferably for me, the lemon thin ones. Oh, those are good.
I love the idea that you get into that car with a bloody, gushing stump arm, and you're like, I'm about to starve to death. Can I have some sustenance? And like, I have an Oreo for you. It's like, it's like a lemon one? It's like, no, it's just a regular chocolate Oreo. Just go, ugh.
I guess.
Ugh. Are you sure? Can you look again?
Or I just really try to. I'm just sitting there. I'm eating. I'm like, hey, this Oreo's good, but have you tried the lemon one? Can you spare 5 minutes? Can I tell you about lemon Oreos?
You're bleeding onto their floor mat, and you've got an Oreo. You're eating a tiny bite at a time, which I actually think also is a real thing that he did. He was like eating a tiny bite at a time. He's like, oh yeah, no. If you could get me to the hospital, could we hit a drive-through or something? It's just a regular Oreo. My wildlife tip: if you're outside and it's getting late and it's getting cold, go find a bear. They're very warm and fluffy, and just cuddle up to them. They'll keep you warm.
They give you big hugs.
You just give them a big bear hug. That's why it's called a bear hug. They'll wrap you up, keep you warm. It's like it's like what Luke did with the Tauntaun, except for you don't have to cut the bear open. They're just already warm.
You now live with it forever.
Yes, that is your bear husband or bear wife or bear partner.
Or bear like dad or mom. You can be the child. That's up to you. You are family.
Sure, good point.
If you go home, that bear gets to crash on your couch anytime it wants.
Yep. Bear hits a rough patch, you're going to tell that bear they can't come stay on your futon?
Nope.
You are going to freeze to death, and they welcomed you into their big bear arms.
That bear owns at least 50% of all property.
That is, by the way, common misconception. I know the show already got kind of touchy, kind of political earlier.
That's bear law.
But the phrase, the right to bear arms, is actually about the situation I'm currently describing. It has nothing to do with guns. The right to bear arms is the fact that if you see a bear in the wild and you are cold, you have the right to go up to that bear and ask it to put its arms around you. But that enters a contract with the bear that you then also have to be able to welcome it back into your home. It's the second Bear Amendment, is that they have the right to bear arms, but it's B-A-R-E because we're not covered in fur. But if they show up at our door, you have to let them in legally.
Yep. They don't teach you all these things in school these days.
They just don't,
they really don't, man. Am I smarter than a fifth grader? You bet. 'Cause I know the real truth. This is America that people don't want you to know. The way we've mistreated our bear fathers. Don't even let them in our homes now.
I've just been really trying for several seconds now, trying to come up. I wish that there was another person here to talk to you, Rudy. Well, I really worked very hard on a pun to make the phrase critical bear theory anything, or like grizzly race theory. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with anything. Just anything. I just can't get there at all.
Tonight. Jokic is out tonight.
Jokic is out tonight?
Yeah. I'm just stalling.
Just a topic for me? Nah, that's okay. I already fizzled out. I think second Bear Amendment was the best I was going to get this segment.
It's pretty good. The real dark truth of Barica. Barica?
Abarica.
Abarica.
Abarica, yeah. Yeah, God bless Abarica. I think I made a joke earlier this segment that I said might have been the worst one in the history of the show, and then we did that entire bit. What a self-fulfilling prophecy that was, huh?
What's good, what's bad, who can say?
this point, I barely know anymore. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Brett Veach. That's a Freudian slip.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Everybody wants a hookup, right? Well,
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
All right, we're doing this show live from the bottom of a swimming pool, and, oh, man, the chlorine levels are perfect in here. I'm Joshua Brisco.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Someday the best parts of this show will be on the air, but it won't be today.
Not today.
Definitely not today. Today the worst parts of the show have been on the air. Oh, Let's hear from the grizzlied old veteran, Brett Veach. That was a bear pun. Barrett Veach, grizzlied veteran. He's not a grizzlied old veteran. He's actually more of a
very young,
more of a
cub. You could say. Yeah.
A cub. Yeah.
Just a spry young cub getting his start in the world.
Don't
He's killed his first animals already. You know.
Don't you think it's crazy that
Papa Bear is real proud with his mustache? Beardy Reed is the Papa Bear.
Don't you think it's strange that the NFL is 90% or 70% black bears, but there are 28 polar bear head coaches? I just think it's interesting.
I'm trying to think of a good environmental pun.
Well, there's not one.
Something about how
none of these puns have been good. There's no path to good puns. Are you kidding me? We went to break last segment with the smug bleep-eating grin on my face after the phrase "bear to Veach." You think this show has a standard to uphold? Are you kidding me?
No.
Who are we to get on this airwaves and criticize other people for being bad at their jobs?
It's too late for standards. Standards go out the door at 9 p.m.
I think
that might be one of the more truest things I've ever said.
Yes. I think there's a sign in every bar in America above the door that says standards go out the window at 9 p.m. and we close at 11. That should be a sign somewhere. Oh my goodness. I currently also can't tell if my blood sugar is a little low or if I had iced coffee for dinner. Or both.
I feel like in the last week you've told me this story a handful of times.
What story?
Oh, just I don't know if my blood sugar's low or blank.
Yeah. I'm still very much in the learning process.
That's fair.
And,
yeah. I was thinking more of is your technology working right?
No, I put in a new sensor literally a few hours ago. I mean,
I do forget you have to change those out frequently.
Right. And my last one was not quite calibrated quite right. And so this one I just should have done a finger prick during the break, but it didn't really hit me until just now. And then I did have some more iced coffee here at 9:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm. I try not to drink caffeine past at least noon.
Brett Veach spoke to the media yesterday. I thought it was pretty interesting. He had a lot of things. And, we've talked a lot about good mascot team names of animals. The Cincinnati Bengals, I don't know why. I don't know how that one landed there. But Tigers and Bengal Tigers and everything allow for some good branding. They have not capitalized on all of it. But did you see the uniform matchup, by the way, for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I distracted myself. The Rams are not doing their bone-on-bone. Thank God. Their uniforms that they apparently were inspired by Todd Gurley's knees. It's a stupid joke also. But they are wearing just white over gold pants, blue helmet. It's their best look.
For sure.
The Bengals got orange helmet, black jersey, white pants.
Yep.
It is
their best look.
It's an unorthodox matchup, but I think that both teams end up with their best looks. Maybe if it would have been Bengals in white versus Rams blue over yellow.
Black and orange is a low-key good combo that you just don't see very often. I remember one of the first times outside of professional sports, this was high school, we were playing at a Humboldt high school, and they're black and orange. Just man, those uniforms are pretty clean.
Yeah, I really like a black and orange color combo.
It's very underrated. You don't see it a lot, but it works. And maybe that's why it's good, is because you don't see it a bunch, right? Maybe if you saw it a bunch, you'd be like, it's not good, but it's good.
It's a little Halloween-y. I get that.
For sure.
I also just think I also am generally in favor of teams whose main colors aren't blue or red, just because
so much of it.
That's almost everybody starts with blue or red, or sometimes both.
And it's some shade of it, right? Like the Texans aren't necessarily red, but it's it's that maroonish or whatever.
It's blue and red. Yeah. Yeah.
No offense, KU, crimson, right?
Yeah, sure.
Red.
Yeah.
You get a lot of variations of red and blue.
There's
royal blue. There's giant blue. There's
here.
These are all different shades of blue, apparently.
Here's a list of.
There are 10 shades of blue that look the exact same to me.
Here's a list. You might be colorblind.
Well,
what color are the Baltimore Ravens to you? Blue?
Orange.
Okay. Here's a complete list of NFL teams whose logos or uniforms do not prominently use blue or red. I say prominently because I'm looking at the Ravens, and there's red in the Ravens' eye. I'm not counting it.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No red or blue prominently used for the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, scrolling, Packers, Jags, Raiders, Dolphins, Vikings, Saints, Jets, Eagles. Is this good radio?
Probably not.
The Steelers have it on their helmet, but I'm gonna give them. They're black and gold, right?
For sure.
And that is the list. I believe that I counted to 17 there. So half of the league is either red or blue.
Mm-hmm.
Or both.
Patriots. Their logo is like a little bit of red and blue in it.
Yeah. Half the league is red or blue. The other half is something else. Should have just stuck with the Brett Veach audio. I don't know why I felt the need to come back around to
it happens.
Team Talk. I'm going to close the logo tab so it can't grab me again. Close. I'm going to keep open the tab for Perry on Winfrey because I do want to circle back on him. I'm closing the other one. Let's go to Brett Veach here. Because he talked yesterday, he talked for a long time. There was a handful of interesting things. But one of the things that's going to hurt, and that we can just play the clip and it can be done and it can't hurt us anymore, is him talking about Chiefs-Bengals and what went wrong there. And it's kind of interesting here from a GM perspective. Plus, you also hear him, I think, be a little bit of a bummed fan as well. This is not the most instructive thing for the rest of the offseason, but I do think it's interesting to hear from Brett Veach about what went wrong in the AFC Championship game, and even a little bit back in the first time that this team lost to the Bengals.
I think their equation was the Chiefs' biggest weakness is themselves. So, let's just bank on them being a little bit aggressive and impatient. And that's what happened in that last game, I think, is just that, we have that killer mindset. We just want to go out there and score every play. And, we did that early on. We controlled ourselves and we played within, the scheme, and we were patient. And I think we just wanted it so much. And, that's why you love these guys the way we do, is because when they see that blood in the water, they just go after it. And, we just got caught up in a little bit of a dilemma there in the third, fourth quarter where we just couldn't do anything right. And it was just a bad day to have a bad day. And that'll sit with us for a long time.
Like the idea you just sit back and wait for the Chiefs to beat the Chiefs. It's brutal. It's obviously what the plan was. Veach also, I like hearing from Veach, even though last year, he talked for a while about how Mitch Schwartz and Eric Fisher should be back by training camp, and then 11 days later, they cut them both. That's not his fault. He's got to say what he's got to say there. It's just funny to me. But I like hearing from Veach also because he speaks pretty plainly about a lot of this stuff. And if it's strategic, I think he will shake you off forever. But on stuff like that, I think that's genuinely what he thinks happened, and he was frustrated by it. You don't always get that kind of honesty from a head coach or a quarterback because they've gotten a lot of reps to practice lying to us, And Veach will at least give you something in the midst of it all, which I do appreciate. One thing that we talked a little bit about with Seth on Monday, Verderame mentioned it earlier in the show. We talked about it for an entire year last year, and now we can talk about it for another entire offseason. Veach was asked about, not having that third pass-catching weapon on this team, despite you get your growth from McCole Hardman or Byron Pringle, but Odell Beckham Jr. is about to play in the Super Bowl. And he's not with the Browns anymore. I'm not sure if everyone caught that. But he was asked about that third offensive weapon, not having it this year, and also the importance of getting one for next season.
Yeah, I think our priority is always, any sort of advantage that we can get, we'll pursue. It's no different than the Rams. I mean, they had a bunch of wideouts, and they had a chance to get Odell. Even if, we could have potentially had Sammy Watkins on the roster, and that would have been something. I think you guys know how we're wired. If it makes sense to us and it doesn't put us in any long-term binds in regards to future caps and structure, but if there's any way we can get better, and if there's any way we can get Pat Mahomes more weapons, we'll do that.
Mentioning Odell Beckham there in particular bums me out. Even mentioning Sammy Watkins, because he's right. They could have had Sammy Watkins back again. They weren't, not that they should have, because we all talked about that at the time. But it's sort of frustrating to be back at this point again, where last year it was, could it be Juju? And this year it's, could it be Juju? And mid-season it was, could it be Odell Beckham? And this offseason it's going to be, could they go get Odell Beckham? Or should they draft someone? Should they have drafted T. Higgins? And then they get beat by T. Higgins.
Yes, all the above.
It just kind of bums me out a little bit, because it's a conversation we already had once, and that came home to roost. Shocked Pikachu meme, and now they're at home. I don't know.
They're in Vegas, Josh. What are you talking about?
Makes me sad. What?
They're not at home. They're in Vegas. Pro Bowl.
I'm at home.
You're at work.
I mean, I'm cornered. Fair enough. One of the low-key perks of everybody talking about how great Tom Brady is that I'm seeing more pictures and even games of him when he was younger, and he just looks like a different person.
Not the same person.
Like, this is from 2003. You might be able to convince me that this man is a cousin of Tom Brady right now, but there is no world in which there is a natural progression of what he looks like here and what he looks like in 20 years later.
It's not natural, Josh. It's avocado ice cream and 32 glasses of water every day.
And some really tastefully well-done plastic surgery. There's no shame in that. I got my armpits zapped so I would sweat less. It was also for a video, and I got it, we did it all for a whole all-together package. It was great.
Avocado ice cream. Comes with a scalpel and some silicone.
If I could rub some avocado ice cream in my armpits to make them sweat less, I would have done that instead.
You can.
I mean, I could rub avocado ice cream in my armpits.
It will make you stop sweating.
Will it?
Yeah.
Just because it's so cold?
It'll be sticky, but not sweaty.
I think that's one of those baby bathwater situations. I'm not sure if that's even how that phrase really gets used.
Yeah, I don't think bathwater would help you in this situation. Still be a little wet.
That is, I mean, I have tried bathing, and it's better now. I can wear sweaters in the winter and then come inside and do radio. Now I do have the door cracked, but that's over here. It says 69.0 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a comfortable temperature for me, and also a nice one. Anywho, I got distracted by Tom Brady. But not for the reasons that you would now, because he's a handsome man you just can't avert your eyes from.
A lot of people have been distracted by Tom Brady for 20 years. Except for Eli Manning.
And speaking of which, Peyton Manning in this game just tripped and fell down and tried to hand the ball to Edgerrin James's shin.
Oh, Peyton.
They're getting
one
curb
of the
stomped
worst
here,
athletes to play football probably, but dude was so good.
Is Peyton Manning, okay, let's try this.
Gotta be one of them.
Is Peyton Manning the greatest bad athlete of our time? I have to say of our time because, Babe Ruth existed, and I don't know.
Well, Josh, you may not like it, but that is what the peak pristine man looks like.
I actually love it because I'm much closer to looking like Babe Ruth than I am Tom Brady. You know how much easier it would be for me to look like Babe Ruth?
Yeah. I mean, he's got
just 9 hot dogs.
He's got to be one of them. Eli might be one of his best competitions. That's just a Manning thing,
yeah.
I think.
But
so the reason why we like the Manning so much, right? Because even though they had literally 3 of the greatest right arms we've ever seen and about to be a 4th, they just seem like regular people, right? Just cheesy, regular old white dudes. Like Archie, I always forget because you would think Archie's the kid. No, Archie's the old man.
That's right.
He just sits on his front porch texting people all day long. Like people who he kind of just thought he was met once would be like, oh, hey, I saw that story you did. I really liked it. Good job. He's got text threads with his recruiting class still. And he just texts with people. He's just a normal person just on his phone texting.
So Ryan Mallett holds the mark for the slowest 40-yard dash time for a quarterback at 5.37 seconds.
Wasn't Ryan? Oh, no, I was about to say, wasn't Ryan Mallett that didn't play wide receiver? I'm thinking of the other Arkansas quarterback who got drafted by the Jags, I think. He was a quarterback who got drafted in the NFL as a wide receiver, the reverse Tannehill. He was not good. Athletic, though.
I see Nick Foles coming up. I'm just searching for slow quarterback dash times and everything.
Long neck.
But the thing is, again, those guys...
They're pretty,
pretty athletic, but also not as excellent as Peyton Manning, obviously. So you're going to have to come up with a less athletic Hall of Famer than Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Manning is a top 5 all-time quarterback.
Incredible Hulk mentions Mahomes and Manning had the same 40-yard dash. Mahomes is clearly a better athlete though than Manning. You just watch him run around in circles, right? Manning couldn't do that.
Also, Ice Pyro used 100 channel points to highlight the message. Holy crap, Josh played audio. We played 2 clips in a row there.
Also, if like Mahomes was being chased while running that 40, like by like Tyreek Hill, he would probably beat him.
Agreed.
Travis Kelce, he'd beat him by 0.1, but he would beat him.
Just barely.
He just is always a little bit faster.
All right, we played 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to check my blood sugar in the break. I'll tell you guys what the number is whenever we come back. I was going to say we played 2 clips of audio. We deserve a break. And then we would take a break. Now I'm starting to wonder if I'm going to prick my finger here at the break. I don't know if there's a blood sugar number that's like bad jokes.
The intro looks like it might be paying off.
The what?
The intro.
Entirely sports, or that it's just Rudy? Oh, I'm dying. Oh no!
I'm not saying you're dying.
Did you poison my drink?
I'm not saying you're dying, but you just like the blood sugar may be off, and maybe you pass out or something. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know exactly how diabetes work.
No one does.
Nope.
It's an inexact science.
Very inexact.
It's an art, they say.
Well,
what I just try to do is I just have like a piece of celery and then a Snickers bar, and I just keep going back and forth between the two, and I'm pretty sure that balances out. I did not listen to what the doctors told me. I have not read any literature.
I like celery.
I just have a fistful of shredded lettuce out of your salad, and then I have a Milky Way. And I just hope that it ends up around 100 or something. I don't know. 100 seems like a good number.
Good celery, though, is very good. It's just watery, right? You bite it into it, and you almost feel like you're taking a drink of water. I like good celery.
I'm going to check my blood sugar. We'll come back, and maybe I'll play some more Brett Veach audio, or maybe Rudy will.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime?
The 2 biggest detriments to me ever having like an actual radio career, I think, or I have 3 greatest detriments. Number 1, I have a bad memory. Number 2, I'm easily distracted. And number 3, I'm not good at radio.
With Joshua Brisco.
Also, he's not that likable.
I was going to say that next, actually. Yeah. I was going to say also, I'm not very likable.
You have a squeaky voice for radio.
Right, I do. I have a bad radio voice.
Girly laugh.
I definitely have a very girly laugh. I alienate people.
People don't like hipsters.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I feel kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo. Josh, because you're so handsome.
Want to play for a winner?
Well, I'm going to stick with me being
Are you going somewhere?
So handsome. No, I don't think I'm being traded. I am, of course, shockingly handsome. I am pretty much just as good as Tom Brady. I wish people could see my face when I talk about how handsome I am, Rudy. If you want to just flip that camera around. Thank you. Nope, still behind me. Still the wrong camera. Still the wrong. If you want to switch it over to camera 1. Nope, that's your camera. That's your camera. And I have the Jimmy Garoppolo joke.
What camera are you?
I don't know. It's just the one that's facing my face.
Is that camera 1?
Nope, that's not that one. Try number 2, maybe. Try camera number 2. There it is. Hi, everybody. Look at me. I know. I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo because I feel like he could. I mean, he's not good. Neither am I. But he can blame his like postseason struggles on just like his, or maybe on Baker Mayfield. Even I'm getting surgery in the offseason. Check my blood sugar during the break. Was 20 points lower than my watch said. It's a new sensor. It'll figure itself out. I'll calibrate it later. But I should have checked that sooner. And I'm like, man, I really do feel like those last couple segments really got away from me. Feel kind of weird. Oh, what was that? That makes sense.
You now have something to blame it on.
Exactly.
Every time.
Exactly. Oh, I played the whole second half of the season wearing a big shoulder brace. Shut up. You're still not very good. You know what? That's actually, hold on. Now that I think about it, it's a good point. Seems like it'd be hard to play quarterback with the brace on, even on your off shoulder. The question, of course, is like, so once Baker gets surgery and comes back next year, and if he still plays the exact same, type of football, he can't use that. I don't know when I'm going to be able to
marginally better. It just
right, but will I be marginally better whenever my blood sugar, whenever this fruit snack hits,
Probably
which will
worse.
be after the show ends? Yeah, that's true. I guess it could be worse. Yeah. I also don't know what my statute of limitations is.
Forever.
I don't know though, because like my mom could always say like that her blood sugar was low.
The thing is, let's be honest, most people who you're gonna work with, you're the only person who works here that has diabetes. Nobody really understands it. You can play that card for a long time. Nobody's gonna question it.
I mean that's true probably and should probably be true to some extent.
Yeah.
But also, if in 6 months I'm like, sorry, I forgot to check. I mean, I didn't. If I say sorry, my technology lied to me.
Everybody's gonna be like, yeah, technology, man, makes some things so much easier, but some things so much harder.
That's a good point.
It's the classic. Have you seen the weather outside? It's a very generic, thing.
I am one step closer, I think, in my great value Tony Stark journey, because one of the new Omnipod got FDA clearance a few days ago.
Ooh.
And this is one that will automatically give you the insulin that your CGM tells you that you need, which is exciting. Getting to kind of like artificial external pancreas territory in that regard. I am a little bit, that I think about it, I'm a little concerned about what happens whenever my machine is like, hey man, you could really use some insulin right now. And then my pump's like, yeah, here you go, here's some. And then I prick my finger and it's like, hi, we're actually making Brett Veach bear puns. There should be a button for that.
Yeah.
There should be because if one of my monitors I can click and it's like I feel fine, I feel tired, I feel whatever, and I need to be able to hit a button that says making bear puns. Can I get some help, please? Show tomorrow, 7 to 9. Till then, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is National Sports Handicapping Champion.